Hey everybody, this is Ryan or Ranior here with Aaron or webberaj, and
Hey, folks.
I'm very excited here for the Ice Division second chance game.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm super stoked. This is an absolutely stacked table of incredible players. So I'm so hyped for today's game. I have no idea what's about to unfold.
Completely agreed. This table is nuts. I think this actually might turn out to be the hardest table of the entire tournament. Even like, it's going to be hard for a final table to be stronger than this grouping. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I don't totally know what we're gonna see today, but I'm very excited to watch this game and comment on it with you.
Yeah. And actually, just as a matter of introduction, let's quickly go over the players. I don't think most of these players need much of an introduction. They're known very well by the Terra Mystica community and on BGA. Ryan, why don't you take it away? You wrote sort of the article for today's game, and I think you have a lot of history with a lot of these players. So why don't you just take it away and just pick on people that we're seeing on screen and give us a rundown of who's playing today.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is a really exciting group. We have perhaps the headliners Gino, who is the defending Fire 2 Open champion. He won it all last season and is here for his second chance as well. Similarly, Hephaestus took bronze in the original season and then took silver last season. So he's the only guy that's been in both of the finals for Fire 2 thus far. And then the other two players, our current reigning arena champion, Halai, won the last season on BGA. And then, oh yeah, the last guy just happens to be NerdCube, the number one rated player on BGA currently, and the guy who's also won arena seasons in the past and hasn't placed below the top three in the last three arenas. So,
Yeah,
it,
these players are absolutely incredible. These are some of the most experienced Terra Mystica players that are really out there. And yeah, I mean, I've played against NerdCube just a couple of times myself. Generally with not much luck personally. NerdCube's one of those players that seems just to be incredibly precise with everything that he does. I find it's really hard. I've been in games where players have tried to trip him up or do messy things, and I just find NerdCube more than a lot of other players seems to always find sort of a way out of bad situations. He's incredibly careful with his resources, with his moves. He's just an incredible player like that. And Halai, if I can just mention him really quickly, he's one of my favorite players to watch just because I study a lot of, as someone who's trying to get better at Terra Mystic, I study a lot of expert level players to try to get a sense of what people generally do in certain circumstances and then see if I can sort of try to replicate that in similar games. But Halai's a hard player to sort of watch in a sense because I find he's always doing really creative things. He's always doing stuff that I don't entirely understand, like where his strategy is coming from or what he's up to. He always seems like he has an extra trick up his sleeve or that there's some piece of information that he has that I don't. So I'm really excited to see what Halai does. He's such an adventurous player. And I expect there's just going to be some, yeah, really interesting gameplay happening today.
Yeah, agreed with all that. Speaking to that experience front, yeah, one of the other unique or somewhat unique things about all four of these players is they do all bring a ton of experience as well.
Mhm.
All of them have played pretty extensively on Snellman asynchronously before BGA was even a thing. Many of them are like Halai, I think, has over like 1,500 games. Nerdcube just recently played his like
Wow.
500th on BGA. Like they all have hundreds of games. So yeah, it's going to be hard for anything to be too new. So, uh, yeah, I'm super excited to watch these guys play, and I think we're getting to the game fairly shortly.
Well, just as we're waiting for the game board to get set up, any wild predictions for this game? And I don't just
It's
mean in terms of who's going to win, but anything, any wild predictions that you have in terms of factions we're going to see or crazy
uh
stuff that's going to happen.
I believe because of the Snellman like background, we've seen some kind of wild color arrangements. I would predict that we're going to see somewhat a more traditional color arrangement today. That would more mimic the like Snellman pick order stuff. I think you're right that Halai almost always comes with something fairly creative. He isn't one that just is going to play like kind of a boring, I take Earth 1, Water 1, do completely normal things. Even last game where I thought he might, all of a sudden there was digging cultists. So I think we'll see something pretty fun there too.
Yeah, that's great. So you're not sensing sort of a four in a row color wheel kind of matchup?
I think that's pretty unlikely. I don't think any of these players are that comfortable with that, so I don't think they're going to willingly put themselves in that situation. But anything can happen, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. And it's interesting to see how some of these like top players really like to handle that because of course like people who have played hundreds of games have lots of experience with sort of what you might call sort of traditional color matchups. But then at the same time, it seems to be that like another strategy that some really top players will try to utilize is by sort of making slightly more awkward setups that they feel that they can handle a little bit better. I mean, we've seen that before in sandwiched green factions and strange things like that that normally most people are just going to completely avoid at all costs. But I have seen in some games, and I can't speak to what these players are apt to do particularly, but I have seen in some F2O games even people putting in very strange factions that don't seem like they completely match up with the other colors that are in the game or with the setup in general, but that they just personally feel like that they have a bit of an edge on and maybe can get a bit of a better price on going into the auction, like that kind of thing. So I'm just sort of interested to see like which of those we're apt to see a sort of more normal game setup, or whether we're going to see some strange snap pick coming in at some point.
I actually don't really expect snap picks out of this. My current theory is like some of the new school, like Deep Finesse has openly stated that he enjoys putting in sandwich factions. I think people that have grown up in the auction world are more apt to do that sort of stuff because I think that's kind of what they're more used to. But these guys, again, are all used to pick factions and player order stuff still, and I think some of that carries over. At least it does for me personally. Like I still feel like the game I know, Terra Mystica, involves somewhat normal color wheels, and I don't necessarily love that the auction leads to games that are mega sandwiched. Now, I don't know the opinions on all of these players either, but right. I suspect we're going to see more normal color arrangements, but we'll find out.
Right. I believe that the game board is just being set up right now, so in a moment, production will send us over there. And Ryan, I think you can probably start us off by unpacking the setup a little bit, just in a moment when we get there.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be up here in a second. We'll break down kind of the starting and everything. As it's coming up here, the player order is Hephaestus is picking first, then Nerdcube, then Gino, and then Halai last. So we'll see. Halai is probably the most likely to go adventurous on the color wheel, so I might revise my earlier statement. But as for the track, we start with temples in round one, into big buildings, into spades, dwellings, trading post, and trading post. So this track, a lot of people will build temples in round one. That's pretty common. Building a big building in round two occasionally. Some digging and building dwellings in round 3 and 4 will definitely happen. And then trading post at the end is a good time, but the stacked trading post is tough because it somewhat limits the number of points. And the digging round into dwellings is also kind of the same events because you tend to dig to put out dwelling spots and build on them.
Sure.
So the track is a little bit similar on that front.
And then let's just take us through the bonus tiles real quick. What are we missing here? We're missing the dwelling bonus, we're missing the trading post bonus, and we're missing worker power. So given sort of that, how do you feel like the bonus tiles that we have in the game and also the ones that we're missing sort of influence the way you look at the track here?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So the final thing I think I need to do before I'm going to analyze the texture of the game is we got to look at those
Yep.
cult rewards too.
Right.
So the cult rewards have late spades, but there's no early spades. So there is a spade pass tile, but I do think the spade actions could be contested depending on what factions we see. There's early workers on the cult track, and then a lot of coins. That round 3 coin event is going to be big for a lot of factions probably. And there's a decent number of coins on the pass tiles. So while coins are always important, I don't think this is a particularly coin tight game. I don't think it's a particularly anything tight game, except maybe spades. If all of the factions rely on like power spades, and we don't have like a dark leads or a giants,
Right.
that could get tight. But as for scoring, it looks okay for scoring, but I don't think we're about to see any high scores here. The stacked trading
Hmm.
post events somewhat limit scoring, and then no dwelling pass points makes it a little hard. No trading post pass points is okay. It's often hard to leverage that one early, but I do think we're going to see people probably try to abuse some ship scoring strats, and
Mhm.
several players will probably build big buildings in round two and try to leverage that.
Well, here's a question for you, Ryan. We've seen two picks so far. We've seen cultists come in, and giants, interestingly enough, being selected by Nerdcube. Now, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on these picks, but particularly with giants, most of the time people think of them as opening up with a stronghold event and then trying to get a temple out for some priest production in sort of rounds 2 or 3. But of course, we see those events kind of switched. What do you think Nerdcube's thinking here with a sort of a giants pick?
So Nerdcube a couple months back was kind of known for trying to make Temple and Giants work, and he did
Yep.
largely figure out how to do it pretty well. And so if Nerdcube winds up on Giants, I would not at all be surprised to see him open Earth 1 and go for his stronghold in round 2. The track certainly supports that. Um, so that could get funky here. I think Cultist in the first pick makes a lot of sense. Cultists would like to build a temple early. They might even go double temple opening.
Mhm.
I think Cultists are really good when the Earth Cult coin event is in because that's such a strong income for them. So the cult looks quite nice for Cultists to leverage some good income. And then we do see Orin. So I also
Interesting.
I also like Orin here because you open with the temple and then you build your stronghold in round two potentially. And same thing for Orin. I think the cult income looks pretty good this game.
Now, is that I just on a personal level haven't played a ton of games where I've opened Temple with the Stronghold round two. I mean, certainly playing Chaos Magicians or Darklings, you might open Temple round one into a Sanctuary round two, which is much less costly. How challenging is that, normally speaking, to get a Temple round one, possibly a Dwelling Down on the board or something like that, into round two, where you're then going to need to build a trading post and a Stronghold? Does that require a lot of leech, or is that something that is, yeah, like how difficult is that to accomplish?
It definitely could be difficult. So there's no guarantee actually that Orin will pull it off, because
Mhm.
you do need quite a lot of workers, and especially if Giants are going to go for their temple into Stronghold, they're also going to need a lot of workers to pull that off. Um, and so that makes it that makes it tough. There is the two worker pass tile, which really helps enable that type of stuff,
Right.
but it might be hard to get on that. So um, we'll see. I think Orin might try and strive for that, but yeah, they might not actually hit it. And then the final faction we see here is nomads. So the whole theory about the nice color wheel is out the window. Halai throws in sandwich nomads. Um, and I also kind of like nomads here. It's very tricky for nomads to open temple and stronghold as well, but that's pretty strong if they're able to. Um, so it looks like there could be a lot of fighting this game for trying to build up early.
Right. Which means there could be some unusual additional pressure on action three, the two worker action, which isn't always um, the most coveted of the power actions.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. Sandwiched nomads, it's not. This is a point you made recently. It's not as bad as you'd think because giants as a color neighbor are kind of only like half of a neighbor. Giants
Mhm.
care about the red hexes, but because of their faction ability, it takes two spades to convert anything on the color wheel. So
Right.
yellow hexes to giants are the same as any other color except red. So they won't
Right.
necessarily steal yellow hexes from nomads, but they are going to contest the reds pretty heavily.
Yeah, of course. So we see the first bid coming in on cultists. Do you agree with that, Ryan? That probably cultists here are the favorite amongst the four factions?
Probably. I'm doing the kind of early analysis here. So the initial color wheels suggest that Orin are the best, but then
Sure.
you got to dive just a little deeper into some of the other fights. So Orin aren't necessarily the strongest faction inherently, and the cult fights are going to be tight with cultists. So Orin are not going to just have guaranteed like cult wins. And then the early leech is tricky. I'm expecting we're going to kind of see a lot of factions right in the center, and it looks like cultists will probably get a lot of leech if
Right.
they choose to go to that center brown, and they
Right.
upgrade first. So that is going to let cultists probably have a pretty strong opening, but I think I like Orin a lot still, and indeed we're now seeing some bids on Orin.
Right.
I'm not sure. Orin and cultists I think are clearly the stronger factions here. I suspect between nomads and giants, I'm actually not sure yet pre- what I prefer. But yeah, what are some of your thoughts on how this is
Yeah,
likely to break out?
I I mean, it's understandable that Orin's being bid down quite a bit. It's a little unclear to me of how much better Orin are than cultists. I mean, I assume they must be. I mean, color wheel alone, there's certainly some advantage to just having a lack of color enables and your ability to
So,
expand. But I don't really know, yeah, how many points. Um, I think Orin are probably better than cultists by, I don't know if I had to guess, maybe by 5 points or something, maybe a bit
uh,
more, but I'm not
uh,
entirely sure.
that's fair. I got to interject. So Halai did a really kind of startling move at this level of competition. He bid Orin from 29 to 21. He threw out an 8 victory
Wow.
point down. Yeah, that was big. He's just like, you guys are, let's not kid ourselves. Let's speed this auction up. So that was cool.
That's incredible.
Yeah, Nerdcube and myself, I believe, are players that are hyper precise, and we will never bid more than 1 victory point increments at a time, basically. And
Mhm.
there goes Halai at this high level game, and he's just like, "Yeah, no, I'm speeding this up." Oh God,
So
that guy is
how many
old.
point of a jump was that on Orin? That may have been the highest, victory point jump on Orin in Terra Mystic history.
That's
So
true. That was
that's
8 victory points just right
who
off the
bids
bat.
8 points at once on Orin?
That is
How high?
rare, but Halai does. Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Of
that's
course.
cool. Uh,
Just quickly, how do you think these bonus tiles are gonna break down? I think that's probably important thing to look at to have a sense of, yeah, what bonus
yeah,
tiles people have to be packing on the first round.
I think that's a great question. So usually you're just going to start with the spade. I would expect
Yeah,
nomads are going to take the spade. It's very strong. Orin, probably I'm going to put them on temp ship actually, because I think Orin are going to start such that they'll be able to reach 2 hexes off of temp ship, and so it makes it very easy to open temple and a couple dwellings. And if
yeah,
you get to open temple plus some dwellings, it makes it a lot easier to eke out that stronghold in round two,
right.
because now you have some better worker income going already. Um,
Mhm.
I would expect Giants will then take the 2 worker tile. I personally, as Giants, I probably am lame, and I still just open Stronghold here. But we'll see what these players actually do. And then that leaves Cultists probably taking the Priest, which is a pretty good outcome for them. The Priest is great here, especially when it comes with 2 coins right away off the opening cult round.
Well, I was just gonna say that that does seem kind of amazing here, given that we have a first round, coin event for priests at cult, and then, the first priest will probably go to air, where we're gonna see, an immediate return on workers in round two, and then it's the only sort of like stacked cult. So that first priest to air is probably pretty strong. So it would almost be. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like kind of surprising in a sense that
I,
that cultists in first seat would see the priest come all the way back to
I
them.
to be fair, it's entirely conceivable that Ord are going to take the priest and they're not going for the
Right.
temp shipping plan. It's conceivable that Giants will take temp shipping and try to ship somewhere. Um, there's definitely ways that these pastiles can break down. I wouldn't be betting on anything too. I wouldn't be betting on anything too much if I was these players, because yeah,
Right.
I think there is some real uncertainty here.
Which is interesting because I actually find on a lot of Terra Mystica game setups, it's not that challenging to interpret who will take like bonus tiles. I find if I'm spectating a game or something, I'll often make a mental note of who I think is taking which bonus tiles, and normally it is quite obvious. But you've mentioned a lot of really interesting things here, and it's like it's quite unclear like what bonus tiles people are going to start in the first round, and those decisions are really going to change the texture of the game or not. Like if Orin starts with temp ship or Giants do. If Giants get the big building bonus tile, it probably means they're opening Stronghold and not taking Earth One. Like there's a lot of
Well,
really, yeah, it's going to speak to how the first couple of rounds are played for
so,
sure.
so one of the interesting things that I've learned from NerdCube's Temple Giants experiments is that you you still can just take the workers tile and just open Temple Giants still and not build your stronghold, but you just need those workers so badly that
Right.
guaranteeing you get them is fine. Um,
Interesting.
so like even if Giants take the stronghold tile, I don't think it's a guarantee they're going to build their stronghold. Now, again, if I was playing, it probably is. But Nerdcube's an adventurous fellow, and I can't help but think that Nerdcube really actually wants Giants here, and is just desperately trying to bid everybody else down enough that he has enough of a cushion where Giants are conceivable to like win.
Right. So just checking back in on the auction, we see no one's jumped in on Giants or Nomads yet. They're still both sitting at 30 points. No one's bid on them. And we see Orin 4 points, now 5 points lower than Cultists. How are you feeling about this right now, this auction?
I think a lot of this makes sense. I think you a while back said that you felt Orin were about 5-ish points better than Cultist, and I think that's a
Mhm.
fair read. With no color neighbors, I think there's a lot of ways it could go well. I do think Giants are likely to meddle with Orin's ideal spots a little bit, but I think it's still going to go pretty well for them. Um, but Cultists, I think, still make a lot of sense here too, and it does appear NerdCube values Cultists at more like a. He's not been bidding much on the Orin. He's stuck pretty hard on Cultists. We're getting to the point where I think that we have to start thinking about Giants or Nomads, but maybe it is too early. I don't know. They both have tougher games for sure, but
Hmm. Actually, can we dig back into? We touched on it briefly on sort of starting spots and how the power distribution is going to work, but maybe if production could throw up the hex numbers, Ryan, would you be up for just sort of digging into where we think the starting placements are going to go? I think you initially flagged that there's have to be a big power party sort of in the central peninsula, so I interpret that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're thinking Giants or D4. We have Cultists on E6. We have Nomads on F3 and Orin probably F4. Cultists upgrading first on E6. And so there's a big power party possibly there. The cultists really cash in on the most. Um, but from there, like, where do you think the other starting placements are?
so I absolutely think that yes, you're correct. I predict that the other starting placements are a lot trickier. I think cultists pretty clearly go F5
Mhm.
because that black hex on the east is not under threat, so they'll have a nice expansion at least for some easy dwellings. Orin is the tricky one. Orin could go E9. That's a kind of, they would have a really nice little line of stuff with cultists, and I think they really want to be over there at some point. But
Yep.
I think we might see C3 or C4 Orin precisely because of the temp ship line I talked about.
Sure.
Um, and so where Orin starts going to really indicate if they want a temp ship or not. Um, Giants often probably also start D6, but I don't know. Giants are also a little up in the air because I think G2 is a potential starting spot here for Giants. Um,
Interesting. As opposed to D7. And why not D7 here with Giants as opposed to D6?
well,
I asked because
yeah.
I'm not much of a Giants player. I don't really know those sorts of decisions. So I'm sort of interested why here it wouldn't just be D4, D7.
So the reason you don't necessarily start D7 as Giants is because if you start D4, you're hoping to
Mhm.
dig D5 and then just temp ship to D6 and D7.
Mhm.
Um, Orin, depending where they start, hopefully won't dig you on D7 or D6, and nobody really cares about those reds, hopefully, and so you could get them fairly early.
I
Um,
see.
and so you kind of hope to just get them later, and if you don't start G2, you're probably never going to get those reds down in the south.
Right.
Um, and I think Giants tend. I think the best Giants games are where you get on a lot of natural reds. Otherwise, you have to generate a lot of spades, and that's really tough, especially if you're going to try to go Temple Giants.
Right. Right. That's interesting.
So anyhow, there's a lot of flexibility there. And then Nomads, I mean, they still have two more dwellings that I haven't even talked about, and I don't really know where they go. And if one of them is on E8, that actually makes Giants' life a lot harder in terms of the G2 starts because connecting then becomes a real issue for Giants.
Right.
So there's a lot of uncertainty here still. But I am right that NerdCube wants to play Giants. He's actually been bidding them a couple points now. So
So this is interesting. So we still see a 4 point margin between Orin and Cultus. So it had been so it seems to be jumping between about 4 and 5 points throughout the auction fairly consistently. We now see Giants in at just 7 points higher than, or sorry, 9 points higher, 11 points higher. I can do math than Cultists. What are your thoughts on that? Like how low are people have to be taking Giants here before someone jumps over to Nomads?
um, I I suspect it's going to go a couple more points. Sandwich Nomads is still tricky here. I keep looking at it, but the tough part is really going to be town space for Nomads. and even potentially future expansion for nomads gets a bit iffy. Um,
Hmm.
I do think with the ship tile in the game, it's possible we'll see a kind of shipping nomad strat because that gets you to a lot of yellows that maybe won't be rushed otherwise. But the problem with shipping nomad strats is that your dwellings kind of get flung into weird spots, and so it makes it really hard to town unless you have a stronghold. So
I
I really don't know how that's going to resolve for sure either. I think we're likely to see all these factions get bid, maybe even like another 5 points before people are
oh
going to take
wow.
nomads. Yeah, but that's because I really wouldn't want to play nomads here. But
Yeah, no, and the more I look at it, the more I'd be concerned about playing nomads here. I mean, the moment you mentioned, just looking back at the Central Peninsula, the idea of giants starting G2 and cultists E6, and then they're going to take the black next to you, like nomads central starting spot, that yellow is really apt to just end up being stranded. It's going to be very difficult for that to be part of a town. The other standard spot that nomads often start is sort of in the west, that D3 hex. But again, there's apt to be no real neighbors over there, at least for a large part of the game. So towning up over there is going to be difficult. And then, yeah, where their third dwelling goes, I'm not really sure. Well, this is a question: if you're nomads, do you still start on that D3 hex in the west?
I I think you probably do, just because D3 allows you to like temp ship over to B2 and then up to A5. It still offers really good expansion, but yeah, I mean that's the awkwardness here for nomads. You're not going to have great neighbors. Um, to be fair, you don't really need neighbors until round 5 when you want to build trading posts. But
Right.
if you don't have much neighbors even during the mid game, it often means you don't have much leech. And the other thing that we still are uncertain on here too is like if we think this is a little bit lower scoring of a setup, which I think we've kind of agreed and said it is. I think as nomads, if you're starting with the spade, I think you kind of want to just open Earth One. But is there an Earth One rush here? Is Nerdcube going Temple of Giants and going Earth One? I think he probably
Mm,
will. Um, and will the other factions open Temple Earth One? Maybe. Again, these players are creative, and I don't think there's that much value on Earth One that people need to rush it. But I also don't think it's wrong if they all choose to take Earth One lines. So
mm. Yeah, and then of course, normally the standard compensation for losing out on Earth One is getting double dig, and I mean at a very high level, I mean nomads being a sandwiched faction in a somewhat spade tight game, as we've discussed, sort of suggests that getting a double spade in round one is sort of that much more valuable. Although it is a little bit awkward because if nomads do start with that single spade, as you mentioned that they probably will, that means that they do have three spades now in round one. And also, again, looking back to that central peninsula and where other people are starting, it's not clear to me what they do with that many early spades.
I'm pretty sure they'll pick spots to start and it'll work out. But
Yeah,
I do agree that I like nomads getting spade that many spades in round one and not getting to open Earth One. It's their scoring is going to get tricky.
sure.
With that said, we are resolved. Nerdcube, unsurprisingly, is on Giants. He had to pay quite a few points for them over Nomads, and the
Mm,
margins between Cultist and Orin became probably less than he wanted. But we have Genu on Orin for 11, Halai on Cultists again for 13, Nerdcube on Giants 23, and Hephaestus on Nomads for 30.
right.
Um, so as we're watching starting placements, I think the big thing to watch for here is I think Orin in particular, as I said, are they going to try to set up for like a temp shipping type thing, or are they going to play nice with Cultist in the East? That's kind of a big decision for Orin. I
Mm,
think Nerdcube as Giants here has some pretty interesting decisions as well. Um, mainly based on is he going to start G2 is kind of the interesting one. I think cult displacements are pretty expected, and I think Nomad's two dwellings are pretty expected. Nomad's third dwelling is also a little up in the air, but
right.
oh
Oh,
well. Okay, Nomad's did throw me for a loop. I would have thought D3 was the guaranteed one, but he's saying that he wants to be on E8.
Now, is the reason that you can think of why nomads would want to let the rest of the players know that they're beginning on E8? Is that to signal to NerdCube that a G2 start is going to be more challenging? Is Hephaestus trying to get NerdCube to not start on G2 and put his second dwelling sort of in the east, which opens up that red hex in the central peninsula for nomads? Like, is that what's going on here, or what are your thoughts?
It's possible that Hephaestus is just he actually might be considering something funky for his third dwelling, and maybe he's not starting D3, even though I think that's pretty assured. So I mean, regardless, whatever he showed that. The other interesting thing is Orin do go east, so they start E9. That reduces the likelihood that Orin are going to go for a temp ship start.
Right.
And so I think Orin are now much more likely to take that priest as their pass tile.
And so if Orin does take the priest, then tempship would be handed to giants here.
I
Uh,
think Giants still just take the workers, but I don't know for sure.
right.
But yeah, I don't know exactly how things are going to resolve. But it does, yeah, it suggests that Orin are. I'm not totally sure what Orin are going to hope for, besides for the fact that they're going to have this nice. They're going to have some nice symbiosis with cultists because Orin will
Mhm.
just carve down that gray, blue, gray to the other green, while cultists will take the brown, black, brown, and probably yellow. So
And we do see Nerdcube place his second dwelling on the Central Peninsula on
yeah,
that G2 hex.
yeah. So again, it's not super shocking to me. He gets better leech. He has guaranteed neighbor, and as I said, I think the game plan is usually to get greedy here. If he doesn't start G2, he's never getting that red hex. He's never going to get the one in the south, really. And so by starting here, he hopefully picks up some more natural reds, which is important. The real gamble now is that potential fight on D7. Orin are next to that red hex, and they occasionally take that in some games. But in this game, because Orin can just go down the entire east, I think it's pretty safe for NerdCube to get those other reds. But
Right.
wow, okay, and all my theories are out the window. Gino still does take temp ship. Um, and so I was originally correct. Giants still do take two workers, and Cultist does actually get the priest, which is a great outcome for Halai.
Hmm. Wonder what that means for Orin here. I mean, in order to really, get a lot of utility out of temp ship, it sort of requires them to at least get a single spade. I would
Yeah,
expect on C5 so that they can possibly get,
I
still use temp ship to get a couple of dwellings out, or what
I
do you?
I was I'm thinking that we're gonna see Gino do something kind of fun. I think he's gonna build a trading post, and then
Mhm.
I think he's gonna wind up opening trading post in like 5 dwellings. He's just gonna temp ship to a lot of greens, and he's gonna skip a temple, and then he'll just build his stronghold next round.
Right.
That's what I'm guessing is about to happen. I think Orin get the double dig here too if he just upgrades. I mean, I guess cultists have a shot at it, but
Yeah, it looks like Gino's putting some thought into where his upgrades are going.
well, I mean, Gino has a
I
lot of flexibility here on exactly how he's going to open, so that'll be intriguing. The other interesting thing is seeing where NerdCube put that initial upgrade. I imagine NerdCube is going Temple Giants here. I just would be really surprised if he's actually opening Stronghold. Um,
and are you getting that off of where he chose to
no,
upgrade
no,
his trading post?
it's just because I think I know the guy, and I could be
Right.
wrong, but
Okay. Fair enough.
he ran a lot of Temple Giants games, and he was really into it. Um, So I just think it might happen. And to be fair, if you're doing Temple Giants, you're kind of debating where your Sanctuary Town is going. And it
Mm.
does look a lot easier for NerdCube to maybe pick up 3 hexes in the center for a town. But even that, I'm not sure he's going to do here. But anyhow, taking a step back, now that the auction is kind of done, I think the auction values are pretty fair. But I think I really like Halai's deal. I think he's getting so much early leech, and I think starting with the priest, I think it looks quite nice for Halai. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I like Eli's position as well. I mean, for a lot of those same reasons. Early leech is great. I think he really lucked out in first seat and getting a priest. Often sort of the first players gets the most leech, but usually that comes at a cost of not as great of a starting pass tile. And I think him starting with a priest is really strong here. Um, in terms of, I'm now a bit like curious to see how this will unfold for nomads, because I guess there is a chance here that nomads now, we just saw Gino dig that gray hex in the center peninsula. So if nomads respond here with a trading post and don't do anything else, then they can now grab Earth One, which I think
I
is probably pretty important for nomads in this setup. But
I
curious what your
I
thoughts are there.
yeah, if I'm nomads, I'm upgrading the middle and I'm taking a copy of Earth One, I think. I'm not sure about this Orin opening. It looks like he's temp shipping for just one hex, which is fine. Like it gets you something. Um, but I'm not sure I would have taken single dig there. Like I think you're gonna wheel single dig, very high probability. And I think he had a chance to try to greed out double dig if he just upgraded first. So I don't know if I'm a big fan of this choice for Orin, but I don't think it's a big difference. But Halai interestingly goes priest to air, so saying he doesn't care about. Well, I guess he still has tempo on Earth
Yeah.
One, but that priest to air was not under pressure.
No, but I guess my thought on that is, if Halai still wants Earth One, he has it. And is that just a move to
So, what?
give people less power? I mean, he's not upgrading to a stronghold, so whatever structure he has on E6 at the end of this round is still only going to leech him 2 power. So is that just him sort of stalling? He wants to send his priest to air at some point this round. He might as well not give other players any
It's
additional power.
it's a bit confusing to me because he had the ability to double dig, so it might just be a move where he thinks he's still going to wheel double dig, which I guess he will. And then maybe he just wanted to have more power tokens left in his bowls,
Mhm.
which isn't a terrible reason to do that. Um, but the tricky part is if he takes double dig now, he might lose a race to Earth One.
Right.
But again, knowing Halai, he probably doesn't care about the Earth One race, and I don't think he should. Uh, so maybe it all makes sense, but it's still a little surprising to me there.
Hmm.
We do see Temple Giants,
You see
so
Temple Giants.
the read here is correct. I know my buddy Eric. And there's the Earth One. So yeah. So taking a step back, like typically Giants are opening Stronghold because their Stronghold provides them two spades. That's very strong, and it's how they gain hexes easily. It's really hard for Giants to get hexes otherwise, and so not opening Stronghold is definitely a bit of a gamble. But the other problem with Giants is that they really tend to struggle to score. They don't tend to have early temples. Temples give you like now he has Earth One, so he has a way to score. He has Priest production, which helps him actually fight cults a bit, which
Mhm.
also helps you score. And so it's an interesting decision to be like, hey, I'm going to try to score more at the cost of maybe building up a little too much early and not building out enough. But
Right.
this track is great for the let's build up. The early rounds say build up, and the middle game says now is when you build all your dwellings. So
Right.
uh,
I mean, not only has Nerdcube secured himself an Earth One favor for scoring, but if he when he gets his stronghold out next turn, it's also an additional 9 points off the track that he will have extracted. Um, so that's all worth a good bit.
yep. We see Orin upgrading in the center. That's feeding a good amount of extra power to Giants. I get that it gives Orin a decent bit more, but because I'm assuming that Stronghold Giants are coming in next round, I think Orin may be upgraded in the wrong spot.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why that play was made. Unless he was trying to prevent giving nomads 2 power instead of one. I'm not. I, I haven't been following the power there that closely.
wow. Okay.
Okay.
Wow. Hephaestus hard digs. He uses his spade and he hard digs that black hex E5, That's stunning. That's like what? He doesn't have enough to open temple unless he wheels the workers.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what to make of that. Um,
I cultists were always going to struggle a little to make a center town, but I mean, nomads are maybe going to get town space, but like nomads have to go stronghold to make a town. Like
sure,
maybe he is going stronghold next round. Maybe he's not going temple nomads, but I my initial reaction is hate. I think that move looks awful. Hard to get in round one is almost always wrong, and for a hex that you don't really need,
sure. I mean,
I'm very uncertain about that move from Hephaestus.
that's the other piece that is that I find shocking is I mean is not only is hard digging generally bad in round one, but even putting two spades, however you get them on a single hex is just very costly as well. So to see a single spade plus three workers being
And if
used just to achieve a single hex is incredibly costly in the first round.
it's super costly, and it doesn't even get him to other dwellings. It doesn't offer him more
No,
expansion. I'm a little sad for Halai because Halai was definitely, I think, going to double dig and take that hex, and so it's a blow to him. But who would have ever thought that was coming in? Like I
I and there. I mean, goodness knows there's. I mean, Hephaestus is miles ahead of me in terms of Terra Mystica strategy. So there's must be something going on his mind that I'm just not seeing here. But just at sort of first glance, I'm not entirely sure what that really even does for him. I mean, sure, if he upgrades his trading post to a stronghold next round, he can Sandstorm E4, and so he's carved himself out a town space, I guess. But at the same time, he's now used both of his starting dwellings, or two of his starting dwellings, to and sort of will be merging them together in a sense into a single town. Um, he'll then need to ship somewhere else to set up another town location. So it just seems uh, awkward in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, well, it is awkward. It's mega awkward. It's I still am just like stunned. I don't have the words. I don't see how this is a good path for nomads. But regardless, it's happening. Um, you gotta wonder a little bit if Halai is regretting that priest to air move. I think it was just to save power tokens, but if he just double dug last, he would have secured the hexes he cared about. But I don't really blame the man. I would have never thought that hex was under threat. So
No,
we see Nerdcube take the workers. It makes it, I think we're seeing the super rare and super awesome. I think he's actually just going to open stronghold still, right?
uh, Nerdcube opening Stronghold as well.
I think that might be what we're about to see. He
Does he
has
have
the
enough
reach.
stuff? He has
He
needs
he
6 workers
does.
and 9 oh, my goodness, yeah. And then
Yeah.
he'll dig a hex and not build on it, so he'll use his stronghold action on D5 and then just, uh
Well, so it probably is on C3
oh,
because
of course, because
because
nomads are
nomads
there.
can steal it otherwise. But I, I, I think we're about to see nerd. I'm not sure, right? Like it's a little tricky. Maybe he chooses to delay the stronghold still for next round, and he'd rather try to save his power up to get a coins action. I think securing the workers makes sense. He needs more workers still, but it would be really cool to open temple and stronghold. So I don't know. We'll see what it is. To be fair, Nerdcube actually might get enough power to take the coin's power action still,
Wow.
because Cultist still needs to make their temple, and Orin still are making their temple. So
Hmm. And it's possible that we're gonna see this now from Hala. It's, his turn, and he did
Hal-
decline build when he took, his 2 spade action in the east, so I presume that what that means is that we're about to see Earth 1 here.
I agree. I think this must be Earth One. Not building suggests taking Earth One, but nope, it's
Well,
not.
it's Air 2.
It's Halai. So Halai's being fancy. He must have decided that he wants to have a really long round. I'm not sure why that is, but he must have calculated out that he wants to have a particularly long round. So um,
Hmm.
we do see Nerdcube do an upgrade. I think we're going to see Stronghold here. It's going to be really cool.
And here's the additional power that Nerdcube needs for the 7 coin action.
He would have to burn below 6 power tokens, so I'm not sure he wants to do that, except
Yeah,
maybe he will. I don't know. The coins action's very strong. And he doesn't super need double dig this game if he's, gonna have a stronghold in round 1. So we'll see. It's definitely cool from him. We see Orin also go Air 2. So both Cultist and Orin have decided to pick Air 2. There are Air Cult rewards this game, so I partly get it, but it's it's a lot of fancy play. I'm not sure it's all fancy play, but I really do wonder a little how all these players think they're going to score in a game that doesn't have that easy a scoring. But maybe we're going to see some early sanctuaries to take Earth One. Orin might
right.
still Orin very well might still go for the stronghold next round, and then
Yeah, I
take.
mean he does have the reason. He does have, well, he'd need 2 additional workers and the coins. So
Well,
I
he
guess
can
it would
pass. He
pass on the coins
passes.
and take a worker action.
Yep, exactly. So like Orin can hit their stronghold next round, and I
Right.
think we're going to see that. And then I guess you take Earth One there if you can still, which you probably
Right.
can. So that makes sense. Um, Nerdcube does take the coins, so
Hmm.
he does go below 6 power tokens to do this. But this seems really quite strong to me. Opening Temple and Stronghold is super cool.
I'm not sure that I've seen this before in a Giants game, to be honest. Opening with a stronghold and a temple and no additional dwellings on the board.
I I'm not sure I have either, and so I'm really excited about this too. Like this is very dreamy for Nude Cube. He got just enough leech to take the workers and the coins power actions, which super enables this. Um,
Right.
I've played a couple of Witches games where I've opened Temple Earth One and Witches Stronghold, and those have felt really good in general. Um,
Right.
Assuming that you can still expand outward and get enough of your hexes. So the big question is, will Nerdcube get enough of his red hexes quickly after this? And currently, it looks like the answer is yes. Um, so I think as long as Nerdcube gains most of these natural reds over the next couple rounds, I think he probably is the favorite to win this one. But so there is one downside. I just realized that I had it. None of us have talked about yet. His connection path is pretty dead already.
Right.
Um, there's almost no way that I see where he's gonna actually connect. So not getting network is gonna be tough.
Yeah, that's right. With G3, the green hex in the south that Orin are currently on, that's the only other somewhat easy spot that I can see him connecting into the reds in the northeast. Of course, Orin's there, so it makes that challenging. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that is going to be challenging.
it's really tough. It's really tough for Giants to connect here. So they maybe just don't. Nomads also has a bit of an issue with that E8 hex. They got to connect through the north, which isn't that guaranteed for them either because Cultists likes a lot of those northern hexes. The Giants like the northern red. Um, so Nomads, that E8 dwelling could kind of mess with their network a bit. Also, Nomads goes temp shipping, which is I think this is a big concern for Nerdcube because that red on D6, where
Right.
Nerdcube would like to be able to access D7 and all that potentially disappears. Hephaestus might be pulling a pretty aggressive open that could disrupt his opponents a lot.
Yeah, disrupting 2 opponents within the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, this is wild. Like,
And then we see Halai pass for the 7 coins, the 7 coin bonus tile. Um,
yeah, Orin decided they preferred 5 coins and a cult step, which is fair. That's
yep.
yeah, both of them getting coins is nice. As we said, or as I said, you said, like the game has a reasonable number of coins actually on the pass.
Mhm.
So
And Orin still doesn't have Orin still has enough resources to, as you mentioned, get out their stronghold next turn if that's what they want to do. Uh, have to start with a worker's action, and then I believe burn a power for a coin. It's 1 coin short, I believe.
Yeah,
As
but
eight.
just convert. There's no, yeah, it's not actually a burn needed. So
Well, once he takes a worker action, I think it'll
he
be a
has air
burn.
too. He has air too.
Oh, he's there too, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. If anything, maybe Orin actually wheels a coin action this round. Yeah, it's by getting a little power, and then maybe they do burn for coins. I'm not sure, but regardless, yes, I think and indeed Gino does open with the workers, so he's definitely going for the Orin stronghold here in round two. I think that's a
Mm.
good decision. He'll take Earth One now, and he'll have lots of power income throughout the game. He'll have a nice economy. Um, so yeah,
Now, what do you think we're about to see from Hephaestus here? Because we've discussed he can build a stronghold this turn,
I
but
I I I think I think he might just double dig and build some more dwellings.
right,
I don't know it though. Like his to be fair, the only way that double dig makes a lot of sense to me is if he's building a stronghold. Um, but he can double dig with temp shipping. Like I don't know why he passes for temp shipping unless he plans to somewhat use it. So I don't know
right.
what Hephaestus's plan is, I guess, and I look forward to what it is, but I'm very dubious about his line thus far.
Hmm. Yeah, because of course he doesn't have enough workers to dig and build a dwelling, and then also get a stronghold out, unless he opts for single dig. He could single dig and then build a dwelling on, I don't know, D4 or something like that by converting 3 power to a worker, and then still have enough workers to get a stronghold out. It's not clear.
Uh, I I don't know. I mean, this is pretty much a direct result of deciding to hard dig in round one. Like
Yeah.
you essentially wasted 3 workers for a hex, and now it's really hurting you. If you just didn't take that hex and you just built a dwelling in a normal spot, you could just
Mm.
open stronghold and take double dig here and build a lot of dwellings. And I still think that hard dig is really hurting him here compared to where he could otherwise be. So I still really don't like it. Uh, but I do think it hurt Halai a decent bit because I think Halai was going to get a center sanctuary town. Um, so it's a bummer for Halai. I really liked Cultist out of the auction, and I thought their round one was going to be really good, and it was. Cultists got Temple, got tons of leech, got priest to a cult, got to double
Mhm.
dig. Like it was a great, but losing that hex is rough for Cultists.
One interesting thing is we do see NerdQ pass on to the priest bonus tile, which means giants are actually wielding 2 priests in round two, which is not something you see all the time. What do you see him doing with those priests? And do you see at least
I
probably one of them being used as a worker?
I think he needs enough workers that yeah, it could just be used as workers. It could be he's going to send them to air so they are workers. I'm not
Right.
totally sure. Um, Nerd Cube is going to be a little slow to expand, which is always the downside of expanding up so aggressively, is you really hurt your worker income.
Sure.
We do see nomads just go for the stronghold, so we are correct that that's their line, and he did convert 3 power to a worker, um, so that he could leech some more. So I'm not sure nomads are going to use that temp ship, but that would have been really killer to giants if D6 got messed with. So
Mm.
I think Nerdcube has to be breathing a sigh of relief here. That's a pretty lucky break.
So
Um,
I guess the question I have is, are we going to see a double dig from anyone this round? Um,
yeah, that's actually a great question. I don't know the answer.
I mean, Orin might be in a position to take it, but they won't really have the workers to build on whatever hex or hexes they choose to dig. Cultists are also in a funny situation where they don't really have a great spot to throw 2 spades unless they want to create a big dwelling town in the east, digging the blue hex and then building on that free brown. But that seems kind of ugly. Um,
it's a little ugly, but it's not the worst idea. I think cultists maybe are still just building their sanctuary
mhm.
and taking Earth One, but I don't know. It
Nomads now do have enough power once again to take 2 spades. Yes, and we do see Hephaestus take 2 spades, digging the red hex away from giants.
Okay.
and placing their second one in the north. So he's getting some utility out of temp
Temp
ship.
ship. But the awkward thing is he can't build on B2 unless he somehow gets enough leech here. But like not building on B2 while you have temp ship is a big bummer because it's going to be hard to reach that hex. With
Yeah,
that said,
absolutely.
this is a bad development for Giants. As I said, like losing that red hex is a big bummer, which really slows him down a bit. I mean, Giants can probably dig the green hex on C4 and then still access some of those eastern reds, but it's losing every red hex matters for Giants. So
Sure.
um this is also looping back a little to Aura not starting up north with their temp shipping like I kind of thought they might.
Mm.
I don't know. I like their opening, but it does look like Orin, while they got bid a lot, because I think there was some assumption they were going to get quite a few northern greens.
Yeah.
I think the downstream effect of what Hephaestus just did is that Giants very well are probably eyeing up that green hex on C4, um, and Giants already took the green hex on C3, so
Hmm.
a lot of factions, I guess, getting hits all over the place. And are any of them necessarily winning that exchange? I guess not. Like Nomads had to do a trip. Nomads still did a pretty expensive double dig with hard dig in round one. Orin are losing greens. Cultist lost to Center Sanctuary Town. Giants are losing a red. So everybody is just miserable. So maybe it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. At the
I
end of round one, were you saying that you felt Giants were sort of in the best situation? They were sort of your top pick at the end of
I
round one?
I mean, I put that parenthetical that I think Giants were going to win as long as they got most of their natural red hexes without too much
Right.
issue, and this disruption is big.
Right.
I don't know if it's wrong for Hephaestus to keep it up because if Hephaestus doesn't disrupt Giants there, I don't think any of the other factions had the ability to, and I do kind of think Giants were rolling towards a win otherwise. I mean, I still
Mm.
think Nerd keeps in a pretty good spot, but it's a little less good. So.
What else do we expect to see from Nerdcube this round? I mean, he has a 5 power, so that can be converted to coins. He has two priests, one of which could be tossed to a cult, the other used as a worker.
So
Um,
I think he's really thinking about passing because he needs workers. So passing for a tile that gives 2 workers and four
sure.
points is really nice. The problem is I don't I don't like he doesn't really want to pass. I think he would like to send a priest to air and turn it into a worker that way. But yeah, he does pass
He
for
does
that tile.
pass,
Yep.
and he converts just enough power down into coins that he can will get all of it back. So he'll start next round with all of his power, and presumably he opens with a coin action, and then he has
Certain.
3 priests and 4 workers.
He absolutely opens with a coins action. He'll advance ship
He'll
next
advance
round and
ship.
he'll build, 1, 2, 3. He'll build 4 dwellings.
Yep.
So
Yep.
um it's pretty good, and that pass secures some much needed resources. I guess he was afraid. I guess nomads would have passed for that, right? Nomads, I guess, have nothing left to do. So,
Right. Well, nomads still have to use their had to use their sandstorm
oh,
ability, which they
nomads,
just
duh,
used.
and they go there. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Nerdcube is getting cut off from those Eastern Reds. I forgot that nomads still had the sandstorm. Um, No, I think guy, yeah, this is a crazy tight game here. Like
This is ugly.
Nerdcube really wants to access some Eastern Reds, but Nomad's aggressiveness here is causing troubles.
And at this point, is it just look like Nurkute's completely cut off from the Northeast because he's still at the beginning of his turn 2 actions away from being able to do much about it. Like he wants to start with
Well,
17. He then needs to
he he
upgrade
he
ship, and then he can use his stronghold ability on one of those hexes.
he could skip the coins action. He could
Ugh.
just advance ship so that he beats Nomads to that's B4 is the yellow
Yeah.
next to the red. He could win the race to that hex.
Right.
Which it honestly might be important enough to skip the coins, but that's still a blow too. That's rough, right?
Right.
Cultist takes another priest here. I think it makes a lot of sense. Cultists, there's a free priest slot on water, and I think cultists want to start sending some priests to Earth. Cultists are having what I expected to be a pretty good cult income game for them.
Hmm.
So they are leveraging that nicely. Orin are having a pretty good cult income game too. They just got their stronghold, so they're still going to reach step 6 on air, I would assume. So
Yep. And they just secured Earth 1. So all the copies of Earth 1 are now out of the game. There was a bit of Earth 1 ping pong there, it felt like, of which factions were giving it up. And in round 1, losing Temple 1, getting it. There was tons of opportunities for factions to do lots of things and still secure Earth 1. And I mean, I understand if Ice is wanting to build his stronghold here in round 2 when he scores off it, but it does just kind of seem amazing to me that after all is said and done, and how, like, what everything, like, all the opportunities he's had to take it, that it is still nomads that were left without the Earth One favor. I feel like they, of most of the factions, were possibly the one that may have needed it almost the most.
um, yeah, I think that's really good. There's kind of two parts there. So at high level play, I actually broadly think that you won't often see Earth One rushes. I do think the difference between Earth One and other options is pretty negligible most of the time. And
Mhm.
you can have a really strong game opening econ favor. Now, if you get to open economy favor and then still take Earth One, like we saw Orin and Cultist do, I mean, I think that's quite a strong sequence and worthwhile.
Right,
Um,
right.
with that said, I agree with you that one of the real difficulties of of stronghold nomads games is scoring enough points. And with no dwelling pass tile in the game, no trading post pass tile in the game, how are nomads scoring points without favors? Like they can probably hit 3 towns, but they can't hit this track that hard because sure you build a couple of dwellings in round 4, although it looks like they're gonna have most of their dwellings out, and
Yep.
then yeah you build all your trading posts in 5 and 6, but that's not that many points. It's
Right.
a good number of points, but I mean nomads almost have to find time to build a temple for water 1,
Yep.
but they don't have many coins because they couldn't pass for coins, which is a real problem for them. I do think nomads are still probably in a tough spot here.
Right. And even if uh, Nerdcube does give up on the coins action at the beginning of next round, it doesn't go to nomads. He doesn't have the power to take it. Even
Yeah,
with his power income. So it's, if it goes to anyone else, it's apt to go to third seat.
one of the real like one of some of the nice so like in general, if you take air 2, you're producing a
Mhm.
lot of power, so you really need power actions to come your way. And multiple factions with air 2 and giants have a stronghold that makes 4 power.
Right.
It could have been a little hard for some of these guys to get power actions consistently. Especially Orin with air 2 is a bit tough because you tend to have long rounds because of your stronghold
Mhm.
ability. But
Right.
the fact that nomads went stronghold and giants are already below 6 power tokens, I do think both cultist and Orin are going to get plenty of double dig opportunities this game, which is pretty good news
Mhm.
for them because that's a good way to use your power.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. So are we have to see a pass now from Kali? I don't see anything else that he can do.
Yeah, and it
He
looks like
doesn't
he.
do
I was gonna
pass.
say he could pass for the spade, but he doesn't even do that. He passes for ship scoring because he's just gonna go advanced ship, I guess. It's a little wild to me that the spade is not the pick there. 3 coins and a spade is a really
It's
good
really
tile, but
strong, especially in a
yeah,
round where it's worth 2 points. Yeah, of course.
yeah, that's a surprising decision. I look forward to seeing how that plays out for him because he doesn't have that many coins.
No, I mean, he has a ton of power coming in,
Ton of worker.
um,
Well, he has plenty of power and lots of workers from the
and
cult,
lots of
but
workers.
yeah, I guess he just uses his power as coins. But yeah, I'm
Well,
surprised.
unless Howle's banking on the fact that, I mean, he's third seat, so he's the one that takes coins if Nerdcube passes on it,
Oh, that's true.
and he'll have lots of power to do it. He'll need to burn a bit. He'll need to burn one. Yeah, so we'll see right here.
We'll see. Orin getting the spade here seems quite nice to me.
Yep, absolutely.
And then my only other comment is like looking at the board more. a lot of times cultists try to ship to get to the north, but yeah, like Nomads already took one of those browns, and I'm realizing that cultists' connection path is also pretty iffy this game. Um, I think cultists might just abandon that sanctuary and just try
Right.
to build their network purely kind of in the east, which suggests that cultists might be trying to get to ship 2, and they might be trying to take that red hex on D7
Right.
because then they
Right.
get both. They kind of get both of those brown sections on the eastern continent for towns.
And we do see uh, Nerdcube first action building a dwelling on C3. Um, Now,
That's
how do we go with that,
confusing.
Ryan? Why would he build on C3 as first action as opposed to just upgrading shipping? I was sure what we were
I
going to see is an
I
upgrade ship so he can next action use a stronghold ability on the one of the yellow hexes.
completely agreed. This is madness. What I mean, I'm sure like Nerdcube's a great opponent, so let's dig deeper on what that is. But what? Like, what was that? Um, I'm so confused. Like, Hephaestus can now just build his 2 dwellings, and wow, but Hephaestus doesn't. What is happening?
Um, this is what's happening. I totally missed this. Halai has upgraded to 2 ship already.
Oh, that's why Halai skipped. Oh, okay.
So
That's where
Halai,
Halai's priests went. They didn't go to the cults, and that's
of
why Halai
course.
passed for ship scoring. Okay, we're idiots. Sorry, chat.
Yeah, my apologies to the audience. I'm not sure how
How
both
we
Ryan and
missed that.
I managed to
Yeah.
miss 2 ship upgrades in just 2 rounds
And
of the game.
and he gets the coins. He still has. Oh my gosh. Okay, well that's. I like Halai's position a lot better, knowing
Okay.
that he already has 2 shipping. Like, oh my god.
Um,
This
yeah,
still
so I
doesn't
guess
explain. This still doesn't explain the Giants versus Nomads stuff. I don't. How is Hephaestus
well
not rushing to B4?
because of Halai's 2 ship, that meant that E4 and C3 were both under double dig pressure.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
Halai could have tried to connect through that blue hex potentially, I guess. I don't
I
think that was
guess.
really a threat, but I guess Nomad's responding to it is fair.
Well,
Wow.
I nor
I still don't
normally
understand NerdCube's decision though. Like,
because Halai could have double dug his red. There was a red sitting on the top of the Central Peninsula on that C3 hex, and technically Halai. I mean, he's spent
there's
since
no way
spent his
Halai
ta-
takes that.
Well, normally I would say with this level of players that people have something better to do with their resources than just double digging a hex. But we've seen what these players have done in the first couple rounds, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I
kind of
guess
with
we
you
don't
that
know.
like I would have left it open and just
So
taken coins or secured a hex or something. But
Yeah, and
uh,
NerdCube just goes for the bridge. So like NerdCube's just accepting that he's not getting to the east. This is a massive shift, in my opinion, to Giants' chances this game. Like all of NerdCube's natural reds are disappearing, which I mean this is like NerdCube's essentially perfected the gambit in Terra Mystica finally. He's like, I'm gonna build up with Giants and I'm gonna dare you guys to not disrupt me, and I'll just win if I get all my red hexes late. And if I don't get all my red hexes, I just lose. And he's lost this dare this time around, it appears, because his red hexes are disappearing, and I think he's pretty dead. I mean, we'll see. But if Nerdcube can't, if Nerdcube like isn't going to get a lot of natural reds this game, I think that's just always death to Giants. He Nerdcube felt compelled not to take the power coins action. He's doing awkward things. Like I don't know. We'll see, but what are
yeah,
some yeah, I was gonna say, what are some of your thoughts on the rest of the round here? What else are you looking at, beyond the crumbling giant empire?
I mean, I'm trying to make sense of all of this, Ryan, as best as I can. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm trying to get in these players' heads that are, uh,
This yeah, this game is insane. That's fine.
leagues beyond me. So, yeah, I'm still not entirely sure why Nerdcube took the bridge action. So I guess the argument is from Nerdcube's perspective, he thought Halai might have dug his red hex that was open. So first action, he has to secure that. At that point, well, no, but then I guess this is the part of this sequence that I don't understand, because then Hephaestus responds by securing his own hex in the west. Doesn't that still allow Nerdcube to um,
Yeah, Nerdcube could
upgrade
still win the
ship?
race to
He could
B4.
have upgraded ship and then still got beaten. Yeah, won the race to B4. So that's what I don't understand. If the passing order was different, if Nerdcube was behind Hephaestus, if Giants were behind Nomads, and it sort of would have made sense in that, like, Nerdcube just gave up and said, oh well, he's going to take the hex anyhow. But he could have done both. He could have secured his hex, and then once Hephaestus responded by securing the hex in the west on that E4 hex, he still had tempo to upgrade ship and then use a stronghold action on the B4 hex in the north, and then secure A9, which is a natural red. So that's the part that I don't really understand, giving up on that.
I don't really either. The only, I guess, theory I'm having at this point is that maybe Nerdcube doesn't really care about B4 because there is that black on I lose count, A8, A9.
Oh, of
And so
course.
maybe he's just going to go through there, but like Hephaestus can cut him off again now. Like I guess Hephaestus probably wants a neighbor, but I don't know. I'm very confused as well. I guess Nerdcube's a little worried about that green in the south. Like maybe he has to be worried that
But
Orin we're gonna upgrade ship, but
twice, like, Orin doesn't have any shipping right now. So
well, Orin already sent a priest off to a cult, so like there maybe was a world where it could have happened,
I
but
see.
well, actually, it would have been pretty easy for Orin to use their single dig on that blue and then advance ship and make that green. So I guess
Right.
I guess Giants did have a lot of pressures all over the place, but I don't know. And we do see Cultist go to ship 3, and then he just takes that hex. So he is going to loop around back to the east, like I thought, and set up another town there. I think that's a really smart play. Um, I really like what Halai's up to, which, I mean, I could say that about pretty much all of Halai's games, but
So we do have the hex, or production. If you wouldn't mind just throwing the hex values back up for one quick sec, I appreciate that. So Ryan, are you now thinking that Halai's planning on actually digging A9 before Nomads do? You said
oh no no
looping
no
back
no no no
around.
no. Sorry,
Okay.
when I say looping back around, I mean he's going to D8, E10, F7. You know,
Oh, of
he's
course. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
he's gonna loop around on the other side of Orin, and he'll make
Mhm.
towns on both sides of Orin here, which is a really, really a nice way to leverage some cultist
Sure.
ability. And he's already at 3 shipping, and none of the rest of these factions are playing a shipping game yet. And so I think it's very likely that Halai will have a chance to get back on the ship scoring tile at least once more this game. I
Right.
said kind of at the game preview that I thought somebody would have, I thought several factions might even try to do a ship abuse strat because there was quite a few coins in the game and there wasn't that many ways to
Right.
score points, and so the shipping scoring looks like a really nice path for Halai that's just being left open for him. And
Right.
Halai just got a really nice coins action, which really helps like pay for that strategy. So
Mhm.
I really like where Halai is at, even with the cutoff abandoned sanctuary. Um, Hephaestus's game, he has a lot of dwellings out and he's carved out town space, and he is going to connect because of what he's done as well. But his neighbors are still really awkward. Well, although the cultist coming is actually a huge break for
Yeah,
Hephaestus.
that helps a lot.
So, despite me thinking that that hard dig was terrible, it's Hephaestus's game is it turned into a pretty good spot. I think Nerdcube's game is in real trouble. I
Mm,
think he's just lost so many natural reds. Um, and then Orin, we haven't talked a lot about Orin, but things
we
have been
haven't.
going well for Orin. He got double dig in the dig round. He still has his spade. He's carved out 2 town locations. The
Mhm.
downside for Orin is he's lost all those greens in the north basically already, and
Mm.
so that makes network not good.
It'll be interesting now that we're seeing Halai starting to build up in the east, and we see, well, just right now, Orin uh, continuing to dig and carve out their town, and then Halai is going to come around and start building another town to sort of the east of Orin structures. We're going to see Cultus and Orin building next to one another, and it's always an interesting dynamic. Um, for it'll be an interesting dynamic to see if Gino accepts cultists power leech. I mean, most players that play against cultists, for the most part, tend to just accept largely the leech and in exchange for the cult steps. But it is always a little bit of an interesting dynamic when you're playing Orin. It's that part of your faction really is invested in scoring off cults, and so it'll be interesting if we actually start seeing some early power declines from Gino, particularly given that he has Air 2 and is already, he has lots of access to power that way. Anyhow, I'm wondering what your thoughts are. If you're Gino, do you start declining some of cultists to leech at a certain point?
Um, maybe. So what's really like one of the really interesting things is it looks like Gino is rushing the dwellings in the east because he's going to make a stronghold in Fort Dwelling Town and win the
Mhm.
race to 2 keys.
Right.
And um, assuming that Gino does win the race to 2 keys, I think he can close out a couple cults on cultists, and then I think he will just keep accepting cultist leech because I don't think it'll matter that much. Like he could basically be like, sure, I win a couple cults and get second places, and cultists, you can just have the rest of the cult points. You can win the other cults and get seconds and the ones I close out. And I think they could both be happy with like I think both of them could basically win 2 cults and take second in 2 cults for the most part and just take all the
Right.
cult points basically.
Right.
Um, but we'll see. I agree. That's an interesting dynamic. The other big movement that just happened, and why I was really surprised Nerdcube didn't build a dwelling when he did the dig, and the answer was because he wound up using priests and the rest of his coins to make a sanctuary for Water One, um,
Wow.
which is surprising. But he's on the pass tile to make it pay off. There is almost
Mhm.
certainly a Water One race brewing because these all these players want points. Nomads still haven't made a temple. They're going to take Water One next round almost certainly. And so then it's kind of just cultists and Ornn staring each other down on who else is
Right.
going to secure Water One. Um, I think Water One makes sense for Nerdcube. He's not getting hexes. He's not connecting, so he's not getting network. He's probably not getting 3 towns, and so I think this is where Nerdcube switches over to greed points like he often does. So
Yeah, for
like
sure.
yeah, it's a really um, it's really an interesting like break point here for Giants on how do you win from this position? If you're getting cut off from network, you're getting cut off from your hexes. If you can't really compete on network, you can't compete on cults because the Orin are so high. How do you win? And I mean, I think the answer is he doesn't, but I mean, he has to try, right? So I think Nerdcube going for a strategy of saying, hey, I'm going to take Earth One, Water One. I'm just going to super hit these rounds for scoring. I'm going to aggressively go for the pass tiles for scoring. I'm just going to greed victory points at every stage of the game. Um, I think it is probably his best path. He's going to build quite a few dwellings next round, and then he'll build a bunch of trading posts during the trading post rounds. They'll all be backed by Earth One, Water One. He'll try to keep getting on the pass tiles, and maybe that greedy point strategy will be enough to let him compete. I, I, I think he's doing the right plan here. Given the downsides that have happened to him, I think he's on the right path. I still think again, I think it's a losing path, but I think he's making the right decisions and the right moves to give him the best chance.
Whose game do you think is in its best spot right now then?
I like Halai, I like
Yeah.
quite a bit. I think Cultist with 3 shipping, again, the fact nobody else has tried to abuse ship yet.
Mhm.
Halai's about to pass for 9 points. He has good worker production. He has quite nice coin production. Like he has a bunch of coins coming from the cults. He still has lots of power. He's
Mhm.
has 2 town locations pretty well set. He has temple on water one next round because
Right.
Gino doesn't have a trading post up. So Halai, Gino could go sanctuary. Um, okay, that's a slight issue. Um,
How much do you think the race
Well,
to
except
Water One
nomads.
matters for
Never
these
mind.
two factions?
Nomads might lose the race then. Sorry, because Gino could go sanctuary, and then cultists will still get. So I think Kalai has a guaranteed water one. Um, I think Kalai's gonna have good cults. I think Kalai's gonna have an okay network. Nomads are gonna win network, but I think Kalai can get seconds.
Now, in
So
terms of
yeah,
this race to Water One, let me ask you about that because I know this is one of these things that's often talked about at like expert level play is like when to take Water One and when not to take Water One. And I know in lots of situations, people I've often heard from sort of expert level players that people rush Water One too often when they can't afford it. And so you've broken down how both cultists and Orin can grab it next turn if they want to. Orin by building a sanctuary. Like, is that worth it to Orin to be building a sanctuary next round in a dwelling round to secure water one? Is this one of those games where it's really important and cultist and Orin should both rush it, or is it okay for them to be giving it up here?
Wonderful question. So I think when experts tend to say that many beginners rush water one, it's because you'll see players. It would have been like, let's say this game that cultist opened Earth one with their temple in round one and then still
Right.
built a sanctuary for water one. That's committing to a lot of scoring and harming your early economic snowball. These players have all built up their economy through several rounds. They have a bunch of dwellings out. They might have a trading post or two. There's a lot of cult coins coming in or there's a bunch of coins coming in from the cults. And so
Right.
at this stage of the game, these players have enough resources to be like, okay, now I need to find ways to make more points. Now water one
Mhm.
becomes quite valuable because I've set up my economy enough. Now I have enough economy to justify trying to find better ways to score that economy. And
Right.
so we're at that break point now where all of a sudden a lot of these factions have figured out their economies. Like Orin have entered this round with a bunch of power, 11 coins,
Mhm.
9 workers. Halai has 9 coins, 6 workers. Uh, and everybody's going to build a bunch of trading posts in the next 2 rounds because that's just what it is. And
Mhm.
there's not many pass tiles in the game, so now is a great time to figure out scoring. But if any of these players had tried to like aggressively go for water one during round two, I think that's when it's too early. I think setting up
Right.
your
Right.
economy is more important. Um,
Right.
Judging that break point is very hard though, and so that is one of the
Mhm.
real skills that separates the even pretty strong players from the experts. So
Right. We do see nomads give up on being able to take a 7 coin action to build a trading post. They founded a town. They took a ship town. It looks like it. I assume what that means is they're sort of hoping to get water one here. And so what's interesting to me is each of these players, well, at least Orin has to make a decision of taking a power action, probably a 7 coin action, or just building a sanctuary right now. Um,
yeah, it is a really tough decision. And Gino goes for the coins, which
goes
is
to the
another
coins.
another bad break for Team Giants. I would expect
Yeah.
Team Giants is going to build a like I think they're going to build like 2 dwellings and then probably try to pass back onto that big building tile.
So Nerdcube also has temp ship here. So how does he get the most utility out of that? Is he gonna try to build on? I mean, he has 3 workers and enough power to build 3 dwellings. Um,
Oh yeah, I
with
missed
a
the
priest
attempt
as a
ship.
worker, if he really wanted to, and a little bit of leech, he could almost squeak out 4. And he has temp ship. So in order to get the most utility, does he secure in production? If you can just quickly throw those hex numbers up again, like A6 in the north. Does he use his stronghold ability on G1, which is the gray hex just to the left of his stronghold, and then try to grab E3? Like, how do giants here in a dwelling ground best utilize that temp ship?
That's a great question. I think any of those lines are okay, but as I was saying earlier, like how do Giants win this game? It's not via network, and so building up their economy to massive levels isn't really going to help them. They really just need points, and so for the most part, any dwelling is the same as any
Sure.
other. So they mostly just need to set up towns. So the question is, can they get 3 towns? But they go for the G1 line, which is fair.
Right. They go for the G1 line. They only have 2 more stronghold actions this game, and they can't double dig. They need one of them in the south to form a town.
They're
Um,
only going to get 2 towns,
yeah,
yeah.
so they're only getting 2 towns.
Um,
So
which
at
is
that
sort
point,
of
if they're
where,
not
which is
getting network anyhow, then it makes sense to just like try to spam out Earth One back dwellings in a dwelling round as best you can for 4 points a pop, right?
yeah. I think he's gonna again. I think he's just gonna build a couple of them, and I think he's just gonna try to pass back onto the 8 points tile. Partly
Right.
because he needs the workers too, and then partly because it comes with the 7 coins action that he also really needs. If he passes
Mhm.
first, so uh, we do see
Yeah.
cultists go water one and nomads went water one. So
Right.
Orin skipped on water one, which I certainly understand wanting to take the coins action. It's quite strong. I think this is fine. I argue a lot of times the difference between Water One isn't that big, and I think again here the difference isn't that big because I think Orin now can just build quite a few trading posts and then build a temple for Air One next round. And so if you get like a 7 point Air One compared to a 12 point Water One, it's not a big difference. I mean, it's 5 points. That's something, but
Yeah. I'm
um,
wondering here if Gino's top priority, I mean, I think we're going to see it in a minute, is building on the green hex in the south, forming a town, and then stealing air from cultists. I mean, there's no way cultists are going to get a town key before them.
yeah,
Um,
I think you've called exactly what's going to happen. I think it's almost guaranteed that Orin are about to take the 2 key town, and then they'll either send Priest to Air or use their Stronghold
right.
ability and just
Stronghold
close out
ability.
the Air cult.
Yeah.
Um, I think Orin are trying to probably win 3 cults this game. If they take 2 key town here, they have really good cult tempo just across the board anyhow. Um, and then they already have a priest or two. I think Orin can try to win 3 cults.
Yeah.
And looping around to one of your earlier excellent calls, we do see Gino decline that power. Um, that was a 4 for 3 leech, and given that Aura don't have Water One,
Right.
I think it's just correct to decline it just from the perspective of I'm not even sure that leech pays off, but when you add in that cultist is your biggest competition, probably
Yes.
just for the game, but also on the cults, I think that's a great decline. But great foresight from you on that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much, if that continues to happen.
So I think it kind of will because one of Gino's other slight issues here is that well now he gets a ton of power, so never mind. I was going to say though he only has 6 power tokens and he still has air 2, so he has to be
Yeah.
really careful with how his power is moving through his bowls so that he can still actually produce power. Uh, and he's actually getting he's getting so much power because I forgot about the fire cult reward, which I always do. Heads up,
Right. Of course.
yeah.
Uh,
But there's a bunch of power. Gino has power coming in from the cult reward this round too, so he wants to be really careful about how the power circulates here.
yeah, he has a 10 power income, at least.
Yeah, and
Uh,
he only has 6 power tokens, so I mean he needs
yeah,
pretty much all of his power tokens. But he
that's
can
right.
accept this 2 for 1 now, so we'll see if he keeps declining or if he accepts more reasonable leech amounts.
Now, in terms of footprint, uh, does Orin expand for this game?
I don't really think so, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. Like one of the downsides for Orin is that I don't like they got cut off from the other greens, so it makes competing for network pretty hard. And Nomad's pretty well has network wrapped up, so I think it's basically Orin versus cultists for second and third
Second
place.
place.
Giants are
Yeah.
just taking fourth. Um, so I'm not sure how much Orin tries to continue pushing out their network.
Which is quite interesting because Orin's the faction that, I mean, I know Giants are in the game and Giants are effectively color neighbors to everyone. But I mean, other than that, if you just, look at the colors of the factions and look at the color wheel, Orin are like, on the other side of a three in a row, which oftentimes can speak to a larger network, right? Your natural hexes are less contested overall. So it's just interesting to me that Orin's got such a small footprint, given that part of the reason why they were so attractive is just because they didn't have direct color neighbors.
Yeah, well, and it's the yeah, again, I think that loops back to like while Orin are having quite a strong game here with where they started, you still do I still wonder a little like what happens if Orin just starts C4 this game and then do temp ship to C3.
Right.
They'd be on 2 more green hexes and I think they'd still get all this eastern stuff later. But
Mhm.
the upshot of starting in the east is they did have this really nice tempo on this town and they did win the race to the 2 key town because of it.
Yes.
And that's a lot of points too. So as always in this game, there's a lot of trade-offs.
Yeah, of course.
But I so just looking at the situation again, it looks likely that I think well, Halai still has a spade. Never mind, he'll use the spade. But I was about to say I think there's a chance Halai is going to get back on that ship tile pretty quickly. Nerd Cube's next move is almost certainly pass for the stronghold
Yes.
bonus, and instead he doesn't get to. Dang,
Wow.
Hephaestus blocks him, which is another big blow to Nerd Cube.
That's a huge blow. I understand Nerdcube wanting to stay in the round. He stayed in the round just long enough to get all of his utility out of temp ship.
He got all of his dwellings. He got his utility on a temp ship. I think he kind of needed to build those, and Nerdcube is saying dang in the chat. I mean, I think Nerdcube had to hope to get a bit lucky, but unfortunately, it looks like a strong move for Hephaestus. What was Hephaestus doing? He has pretty much all of his dwellings out. Hephaestus skipped building one dwelling, so he gave up 2 points, but he secured a pass tile and he secured a coins action, which looks like pretty much all Hephaestus needs. So,
and of course, the dwelling that he skipped on is the dwelling that doesn't actually give him any extra economy.
It does, yeah, it doesn't even give him economy. So I mean, skipping on a 2-point dwelling, not a big deal when you lock in a pass tile that's at least 4 points, and you lock in a coins action, which I've often stated coins actions are effectively 3-ish points, maybe a little more. It's hard to put an exact value on them, but they're quite valuable. So
Um, so Nerdcube, does Nerdcube still pass here? I mean, he has nothing else to do other than sticking a priest to a cult, which I think he would only do if he was hoping to get someone else's pass tile.
He might stick his priest. He might stick his priest to water, just because I think Nerdcube's trying to win the water cult, and that does. But he might just pass for the 6 coins, because Nerdcube needs coins. I mean, he would like to take the ship tile, but I don't think he's not really ever advancing ship this game. I don't think.
That's
at least not enough to make it pay off.
If he's not contesting network, then there isn't much additional utility in upgrading a ship permanently. It's very costly.
He doesn't, and he just doesn't have coins. His economy is really not that good at all, actually. But I mean, he's built up so much, and then, like I said, he didn't get to expand outward. Getting blocked from these cheap reds for cheap expansion has totally killed his game. I mean, to be fair, actually, now that I'm looking closer, Nerdcube built on his first natural red this round. It's round 4, and he's on 1 natural red. All the rest of his dwellings are on his dig sites. That's a Giants game that's gone poorly. There's just no way around it. The only way Giants tend to win when they get a bunch of their natural reds, and they lose in games like this where they just don't. So
yeah, that's an incredible observation. I can't believe I missed that, but of course, building on that red hex on the west is the first natural red other than a starting location. So that's
and he's certainly skipped 1 or 2, but yeah, it's just, I mean, he has not been able to snowball or explode out of that start. And it really comes back to Hephaestus getting that temp ship and beating Nerdcube to D6. That the red on D7 is still available. If Nerdcube could have ever leveraged that stretch, it would have been great. But Hephaestus starting on E8 has paid off. Hephaestus has disrupted Nerdcube significantly. Hephaestus has disrupted Cultist a good bit. I still am really not sure about the early double dig, but it's not killed Hephaestus quite as much as I would have bet. But
yeah, I mean, nomads do as a faction just start with a slight edge on workers, so perhaps an early hard dig isn't quite as awful for them as it is for other factions. It's still, of course, very costly to toss 3 workers and a spade action all on a single hex, but I suppose it is just ever so slightly less costly for nomads, given that they do just start with a bit of an edge on worker production.
Yeah, I mean, that is a fair point. I still feel like I get that this bought him a town, but I'm still not sure it's right. Like, what if he just had an abandoned stronghold this game? Would that be that bad for him? Because the upshot is, if he did that, he would have built so many more workers in round 2. And like, I think he could just find 3 towns with fire 2 elsewhere. So it is interesting to me if it still was actually worth it to do this, though, or if he would have been okay just doing else. But I don't know. Cultists, we see nomads passed, and cultists are going to make their great escape. They take double dig, and he's going to take single dig, and he is going to connect.
This is incredible.
And he's going to carve a 3rd town. Halai is so good.
Wow, this was something I misspoke. I felt I'd misspoke earlier on the stream when you were talking about cultists. I forget what you said, but
looping around,
and I said, "Are you talking about taking the red hex A9. You're like, no, Aaron, I don't mean him taking it. Of course it's not taking it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
here we see like Halai seeing a line, right? Like Nomads
yeah.
have passed out of the round. He's got the power. He's took double dig. He's sitting on a spade bonus tile. Like he's now, not that E6 is ever going to be, or his sanctuary rather, which is sitting on the E6 hex, is ever going to be part of a town, but it's still connecting this way, just adds one extra structure to your network, which
Well,
is
yeah.
incredibly meaningful.
And more importantly, obviously, is just the
Three
fact that
towns.
Halai's getting 3 towns, right?
Three
Yeah, I mean
towns. Yeah,
that's
that's
huge. Like,
huge.
yeah, and Halai has just enough here with his passing spade. He'll build his last dwelling on this black. I mean, the only, I guess, slight issue is this brown is the other brown next to it is he can't build on it very quickly. So if somehow somebody gets the desire to mess with him, maybe he has an issue. But this presents a bit of an issue for Hephaestus now too. Hephaestus either needs a bridge or he has to plant a sanctuary in a very different location where his temple is currently.
Which is going to be so expensive at this point because he needs to start with another temple.
Yeah, and I don't
Taking
really
two
think.
more favors, like what, that's so expensive to once your temple's in the wrong spot for a sanctuary to start all over again with a trading post and a temple and then a sanctuary. And then that means you're taking two more favors and
Yeah, I mean, I assume that we'll
like
see. I agree. I think he'll wind up just going
taking
for.
a bridge down.
He'll get a bridge, and there's really no
Yeah.
bridge pressure. So, Orin and Giants already got their bridges out of the way. Nobody else needs it. So yeah, never mind. He'll just take a bridge, and it'll be fine. But I mean, that's still 3 power down the drain, and Hephaestus, doesn't have
Yep.
infinite resources. So,
Of course.
on the other hand, Orin do have like practically infinite resources. I think it's very likely that we're going to see Orin go for. I think Orin definitely go for the air one line I talked about, and or this I guess he passes for the ship tile, so he's going to try to get ship scoring.
Mm.
Um,
I mean, I guess the
third cube,
thing is that Orin needs to upgrade their ship at some point this game in order to connect, to
yeah.
eco 6 points, if not still trying to contest cultists. Although I'm not sure if that's possible. I'd be interested in getting your thoughts on that in a second. But I guess the argument is if you need to upgrade ship, you might as well do it now while you can eco
I
6 or 9 points. He's got a ton of coins. Like, yeah,
I I think Orin have to upgrade ship just to make sure they beat Giants and don't give Giants
yeah,
a weird route. But I think Orin should just settle for third on network. Cultists at
right,
this point are going to have quite a good network, and Nomads still look to have a pretty good network.
right.
Um, so
Now, the one interesting thing about Halai's game is that his cult presence isn't overwhelming. His best cult was Air, which he lost to Orin. Orin is now ahead of him on Earth. He's done nothing on Water, and it looks like Nerdcube will walk that up. And then Fire is quite contested right now. So are we apt to see cultists sort of eking out, second place on 4 cults, which isn't nothing. Second place on cults and second place on network and three
um,
towns. I mean, that's all fine, but
yeah, he has been declined a decent amount on a lot of his
right.
yeah, a lot of the stuff he's been trying to build, he's been getting declines on, and then he also has only sent 2 priests to the cults. I mean, so have
Yes.
Orin. Orin have also only sent 2 priests. Hilariously, Giants actually have the most priests on the cults, which is
Right.
that is a rare that's a rare sight. But I think cultists are still going to be okay. I would expect cultists are going to win a cult. Halai has 2 priests. He's already advanced ship to 3. So like, I think Halai probably could just slam priest to fire. I don't think Gino is sending priests to cults here really. So
Of course. I mean, this is Halai's chance because Gino has to, with his passing tile, he needs to invest both of his priests into shipping, presumably.
you'd think he's going to go for some ship advances. I think that's pretty likely. Halai is wisely just building a trading post here that I'm pretty sure he's just going to build a dwelling to lock up that hex. Halai does have some resource problems. He
Mhm.
he doesn't have that great of an economy, so he probably is going to need 1 or 2 resourcey type towns.
Right.
which the more I look at it, yeah, maybe is enough problems for Halai.
Well, he was just able to take 4 elites from nomads, so that's a bit of help.
It is help, yeah. I mean, he needs these resources. Halai still has like a good number of points, but none of these
Hmm.
players have a ton of points.
No,
Water one back to trading posts are still going to help a lot for a lot of these players, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It is still a really interesting game. Nobody's just completely pulled ahead, and nobody's totally out of it. I keep saying that I feel like Nomad or like Giants are doomed, but and they probably are, but I don't know. It's not that immediately obvious to me right now.
Well, Nerdcube is almost out of resources again. I mean, he's just missed out on 7 coin action. On 7 coin actions, a number of rounds. Is that correct? When has he
He's
taken won this game?
round one in order
Round
to
one.
he pulled
Right,
that off, but
of
I
course.
think that's it. I think you're
I think
right.
that's
So
it.
he
Uh,
and he's passed to try to take it, but obviously
yeah,
whatever round that was, he was worried about a threat. Given how Nerdcube played that round, I think that might be a spot to point. Like, I don't know why Nerdcube didn't just take coins that round if he wasn't going to aggressively rush nomads. I guess again, like you said, he was worried that Cultists would double dig the red or
double dig.
something. But
Yeah,
I think that was so unlikely. I think that's a gamble you got to take. But
right. I mean, you do have to take some gambles in Terra Mystica and hope that some of them work in your favor. At least I find some of my best games are the ones where I make a couple of risky moves and then it turns out to work in my favor, right? And if I don't take risks, I'm probably going to lose anyhow.
it
Um,
depends. Sometimes you
I don't
have
know.
to. Yeah, I mean, I think given how Nerdcube's game was already at that point, I think he kind of had
Yeah,
to. I mean, to be fair, Nerdcube has followed that ethos this whole game, though. I mean, again, opening Stronghold and Temple it is kind of a big gamble. You're playing a risk of again, like I'm gonna get my red hexes later, and none of you are gonna block them, and
right,
that wasn't true. So
right. Yeah, so there was the round where Nerdcube passed up on 7 coins to secure his hex, and then I think there was what was the round after? I believe it was the last round. Correct me if I'm wrong. But where there was the water one rush, and it seemed likely to me that Orin was going to secure water one, in which case uh, that would have given the coins to Nerdcube, and Halai would have been without it, or perhaps Halai would have built a temple or something, and
so
Giants or Nomads would have lost the water one battle. But there was a sequence there where I was pretty certain that Giants were going to get the 7 coins, and then they once again didn't, and that's when that I
yeah,
think both of those rounds was certainly quite impactful for Giants game here.
absolutely, and you are correct. It was Nomads decided to pass on the coins. They upgraded to a trading post. Orin
Mhm.
decided to give up Water One. So that
Yeah,
happens. But
it
anyhow,
does.
we largely just see a lot of people upgrading trading posts this round, setting up for town
Yep.
chases. It makes sense. Basically, yeah, I don't know. There's not super interesting things going on that's unexpected.
Hmm.
It looks like Nerdcube probably will convert his power to build another trading post. What town did Nerdcube take? I did. That was an interesting decision. I didn't pay attention to. He took another priest town.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's fair. I think Nerdcube is just trying to take priests in order to get delay actions, which is really smart. He's gonna build another trading post, and then Um, he's gonna try to stall out nomads for the 8 point or for the big building tile. The downside for Nerdcube is I don't think there's any way he outlasts nomads.
Right.
What else are you paying attention to here this round?
Um, well, I just took a quick glance at the points and immediately jumping off the page, like Nerdcube's still doing a great job of grading points. And I think a classic, like, I mean, him taking a high victory point town as opposed to, I think a lot of other players, possibly even including myself, might have opted for taking something like a coin town, a higher economic town, just missing out on those coin actions. But we see Nerdcube just effectively just trying to greed points on on that town key, which I think is really interesting. I mean, he's in comparison to nomads right now, and I know oftentimes the points that we see right now aren't exactly representative of the whole game, but I mean, Giants are sitting at 71 points right now, so I think, yeah, Nerdcube's just doing a great job of just greeting points where he can.
Yeah, every point matters. The problem for Giants is that uh, he'll build a couple more trading posts, which are very valuable with Water One, and he'll get another town, which will take him to about 100. He'll
Mhm.
win Water Cult, but then he has no network, no pass, so I still feel like Giants are on the path to the 110s, and that rarely is enough to win at this level competition.
Right.
The hidden points here are, of course, on the Colts. Orin have 20 some points on the Colts. Halai has a couple dozen points, or sorry, not a couple dozen, but about a dozen-ish or so points on the Colts. And then there's always the network points. So we'll
Right.
see, but Hephaestus isn't a big hole compared to these other players.
I guess another interesting, in terms of looking at hidden points, is like Orin has founded both of their towns, and they're not getting a third town. I would expect this game, um, and cultists have yet to found one, and we do see over the last number of minutes, cultists securing the last of the hexes they need in the north. So, of course, Hawaii isn't doing nearly as well as Orin is on the cults, but yeah, Hawaii still has like three solid towns coming in this game, which is pretty incredible.
Yep. There's a little joking in the chat from Halai, but yes, Nerdcube does earn the achievement. He has got all four priests to a single cult. Uh,
Right.
he's completely locked out the water cult, closed it up. Um, so that is fun. It's not every day you get all the priest slots in one cult. So
Mhm.
looping back to your point though, I do think it's a great point too to count up town points. Giants still have a town left. Nomads presumably have two. Cultists presumably have three, and Orin have none. And so yeah, I agree. That's another like this is where I think Kalai might still be winning. Is he has pretty good cults, pretty good network, and three towns that are coming. Halai still has three trading posts that are coming too. That's all a lot of points. Although again, some of those towns might be a bit lower VP. But the other
Yeah.
thing that I've started to pay attention to now, and I'm curious how you think might break down, Nomads and Orin are the ones sitting on points pass tiles, uh, but they have the most resources also. So I'm
Right.
not.
So is this possible where we're going to see? I mean, Giants and cultists here both missing out on a points pass tile in the last round, and then one of two of like either Nomads or Orin getting the other's pass tile. So that's sort of what you're getting at, that we might see in round six, basically like one player on a points pass tile.
I
Um,
think I think that's pretty likely.
um, yeah. Any thoughts on who's apt to pass first between Hephaestus and Gino, or is it just like way too? They both have way too many resources and things left to do to know.
They have a lot of resources each, so it's tough. Wow, Hephaestus is going for another temple, which
Okay.
suggests he is trying to skip the bridge. And he takes Era 1, which, I mean, I get if you're going to do this, but I don't know. I'm not
But
sure I
then,
would. I'm not sure I would have built that temple. I think
mhm.
leveraging those trading post income was good for him there, but it's so be it.
So is the line here then that he uses his remaining power to build a sanctuary so he can pass for 8, and then I don't know if that leaves him with enough stuff to even get out a trading post. Um,
Oh, interesting. I didn't even see the sanctuary option, but yeah, he might do that. I don't like the sanctuary. I would build a trading post. You just took air one. It's a trading post round. I think you need a couple trading posts on the board
Mhm.
at this stage of the game to just make coin income, but
Technically, does he have enough stuff to build a sanctuary this round for some favor that I don't know? Maybe it's just fire two,
it would be
and then
fire too.
it would
Yeah.
be fire two, and then he has enough if he converts. He'd have a coin left through power and some workers to get out a trading post on next to his sanctuary. Found a town this round, and then
Take a coin.
paths.
Take a coin town. Yeah.
Maybe take a coin town. I mean, at that point, I don't think he has enough workers left though to even build out a second trading post this round somewhere else. But
He definitely would actually. That would work.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you might be onto something there.
Hmm.
Maybe he does do that. That doesn't actually seem that bad. So that'll be interesting to see how he resolves that. Regardless, it does suggest that he has quite a few actions left. So,
Yes. Yeah.
cultists build a temple. I'm curious what this is. It has to be fire two.
Yeah, I would assume so.
I think he's tried to like steal fire cult by taking an 8 VP town. Because Hephaestus does accept, which was expected. So I think Kalai is going to take fire two, take an 8 VP
Right.
town, and steal fire cult here.
That makes a lot of sense.
Which one decision this round that I'm not a big fan of is Gino sent a priest to fire rather than saving it for ship advance. Um, I think Gino pretty much should have accepted the fact that he was not going to win 3 cults. I think Giants clearly were winning water, and I think it was pretty clear Cultist was going to steal a cult.
Right.
So I would have preferred. Oh, but Cultist goes for the coin town.
Interesting. Which means that Gino can still secure fire with his stronghold action.
Yeah, I mean, I guess cultists also have a cult step, so then cultists just start marching up Earth and maybe close out Earth somehow. But
Hmm.
I would have been really tempted by an 8 VP town there as Halai, but we'll see.
Hmm. So here's
Halai,
the
Halai keeps getting offered crazy leeches. Like now, this is a 5 for 4, and he did just take a coin town, so he needs resources. But oof, that's a lot
that's
of points.
expensive.
Yeah. Anyhow,
And he
good
does
call. Great
he
call on
does
the
take it.
sanctuary. Yeah, you.
And Hawaii does take that expensive leech, so
Yeah, he does. He's still taking 5 for 4s in round 5.
wow.
To be fair, he has Earth one, Water one, 3 towns, network, and cult aspirations. That's usually kind of my analysis of like, should I be taking Leech? It's a bit of like, how many ways do I have to make points? And he
Right.
has a lot of ways to make points. So
Yeah. He still has lots of stuff he wants to get done this game. Um, so we have to see a pass here from NerdCube.
I doubt it. Nerdcube's going to use his priest somewhere, and he does.
Oh, I see.
Then we'll see a pass from him. But I mean, he's desperately trying to wait out nomads for that tile.
Right. I assume we're going to see Gino using his stronghold action to secure fire here.
You'd think so, but he takes
Um,
a temple.
so unless this temple is for fire too, which I don't see what utility that would have.
I assume it has to be air one, but yeah, it's a weird time to do this. Why let cultists? I guess you let cultists take fire because you're just going to close Earth. Yeah, actually, that makes more sense. Um, I think closing fire is a mistake now that I pay attention because fire is like a guaranteed second place, whereas if you close out, if you choose to not close out Earth, it gets wow. But he does close out fire. What the heck? Did he
What did
already
he
use his?
take? He
Took
took
fire
fire too.
too. He still has his stronghold ability, so he's just that he really wants to win 3 cults is what he wants to. He's decided that he's going to win all 3 cults.
Now, is there an argument to be made here that like I was asking you earlier, what else is can Orin do here to continue to score, their points? They've already founded both towns, and they don't have that many more natural hexes to build on. This is a simple points conversion. Like it's 2 workers and 5 coins is a way to get another 4 points and a swing of 8 against cultists, and that math just makes sense. And why not take another copy of Fire 2 out of the game?
Yeah, I guess I don't. I don't like it. Like, part of the problem is Orin had to send another priest to fire to achieve this, and he's only getting to go one ship, and so
Right.
he passed up on a 6 VP ship advance in order to go down this line just to win fire. Now,
Hmm.
if he's convinced cultists are the only opponent that matters to him, and this is an 8 victory point swing,
Hmm.
then I guess it could be correct, but I'm really hesitant that that's right. Um, but yeah, Cultist wins no cults. Cultist is just going to get a lot of second places, it looks like, which still isn't the worst outcome for him. But wow, yeah, I did not expect Gino to just try to win all the cults there. It's really tough for me to think that's right because like you could have just had a 7 point air one or something too, and you're just
Right.
closing out fire cult. Like you have to be so certain that cultists are your only opponents for that to be the right call.
Hmm.
I don't think I like that.
We do see Gino just accept a 2-for-1 from cultists, which I mean makes sense now. Cultists can't do anything to attack Orin's cult points. Um, are we up to see a 5-power priest here from Gino?
If we do, I'm gonna like continue to stress how little I like the sequencing of his moves. But I maybe we do. I mean, Gino needs to build a bunch of trading posts. But that is about the only way he can score points, and because he doesn't have water one, trading posts are turning 5 resources into 3 points. That's pretty underwhelming. Um, but yeah, he doesn't have things he can do. He's kind of turned into Swirlings here, where he's basically finished. Well, and he does have to get to ship 3, as we said, in order to connect. So maybe it is a 5 power priest, but if it's a 5 power priest, like I can't stress enough how little that fire 2 makes sense to me, but whatever. It's already done. The rest of the board, we do see nomads stay in the round, building some trading posts, makes a lot of sense. Nerd Cube wound up with the priest power action. That's how he's staying in the round. Okay. I still think Nerd Cube's gonna lose this stall battle. Like it looks to me like Hephaestus will build one more trading post, but uh we'll see.
Hmm.
Your calls have
Eh,
been pretty odd. So, idea how much do you believe in the 5 power priest here?
Priest, 70%.
All right, this is where we need prop bets. When's Bizzle gonna let us, yeah, have bets during F2O?
And I'm wrong. Sorry to interject, but we just see a priest, which means that
Not a priest, a bridge.
sorry, a bridge, which means that fire too was not just about securing a cult. Gino's going to try to found another town in the north.
Yeah, he does have 2 cult spades
He
coming
does have
in.
2 cult spades coming in, and no one's around to take those the green and blue from him. I mean, those hexes are pretty safe.
Yeah, okay. I missed the possibility of a third town. The fire 2 becomes significantly better if it's
Yes.
actually helping get a town.
Yep, this makes a good bit of sense. We do see Halai build another dwelling. I guess that was in the south. I missed that for a second, but he's
Yeah,
finding a
it
town right
was.
now,
Yep, it was that bottom right one.
and he takes a priest town. So just going for the high value.
Not just the high value here. I think Kalai is also seeing that he can get the ship tile if he just can stall
Mhm.
long enough, and
I see.
he has the cult step. He has 2 priests, so Halai can I think outstall Orin, which is uh I think pretty important. I think Halai is at 70 points. He still has 2 more trading posts back to Iwata one. He still has some good network. He still has okay cults, and I think he's passing for the ship tile, and he's already at 70 points. I think I still do like cultist quite a bit.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, I guess it means that he's just going to be using his priests as single bumps on cults. There's no more spaces on fire to go up, so
Yep.
he just starts
Oh
attacking.
wow. Okay, great break for Giants. Giants are getting the pass tile. I wonder if this is a bit of strategy on Hephaestus's end, saying, "Hey, I think I would rather have Giants take the pass tile than Orin." Nerdcube is saying huzzah in the chat. Oh god, these guys are fun.
Nerdcube has Christmas.
Yeah.
Places is saying.
I think it's a good move from Hephaestus though to give this to Nerdcube rather than give this to Orin.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big break for Nerdcube's actual chances here. His greedy point strat is going to it's gonna take him to the 120s now probably, which
Mm-hmm.
could have been a lot worse.
So what do you expect to see here from Nerdcube in the last round? I mean, if he wants to get the most out of like trading posts, he can build two more and then a temple, so he can build a third trading post. Or we have to see something like that in the last round.
I don't think he has the resources for that. Um, I
Fair
I
enough.
think I think Nerdcube's probably going to build two trading posts. One of them's going to be expensive in order to make the town, and
Mm-hmm.
then I don't even know what he'll eke out after that. I guess maybe you're right. Maybe he'll have enough things to somehow build a temple for Air One and build another trading post. But I don't even think he has enough neighbors for all that. Like he only has one. He only has one dwelling
Right.
that's adjacent to a trading or has a neighbor. So uh, nomads, I think, are leaving that red hex in the north because they want. I think they wanted giants as neighbors to make their
Hmm.
town easier. But I don't think giants is ever going to join him. But maybe
Incredible.
maybe that Christmas spirit will overtake Nerdcube and he'll gift Hephaestus back. But I wouldn't have high hopes.
So all the fighting over reds, and you're predicting that at the end of this, nomads finally leave one to giants, and giants don't end up taking it. I guess they don't have a ton of utility. I mean, they have Earth one, so it's 2 points, but otherwise, um, yeah, if they don't have the resources, or they're better off putting the resources towards trading posts anyhow. They're not going to win network.
Yeah, I don't see what giants can like. The problem is giants can't even reach that hex unless they advance ship, and
Right.
I don't think Nerdcube wants to advance ship just to build one dwelling.
Having said that, we do see Hephaestus take the spade action when he passed. So presumably he just spades a6. That's the red hex between him and cultist we've been talking about, giants possibly building on. So he could spade that, and then he has a sandstorm, which he uses.
Yep, and then he just makes one trading post, and then his
Yeah,
other trading posts just go wherever. I mean, I agree.
right.
He'll just take the red, but I think he was somewhat leaving the red there for a while.
Sure.
Um, hoping to have more neighbors. Looking at the network situation, catching up, I've been saying like I just as naturally assume nomads with a stronghold have been doing very well on network, but given that he's also gotten on very few natural yellows this game because of his game plan, his network's not very good. Cultists are probably just outright winning network, which
Right.
continues to make me pretty confident that Halai is going to win this. And Halai does get the ship past tile, which I think that
Wow.
I think that probably clinches the game for him. But maybe I'm overstating it. But he's already in a points lead. He has a pass tile. He has another town. He has pretty good cults, and he's winning network. Like,
Yeah.
and he has Earth One, Water One. How is Halai not going to win that from that position? I would assume he will.
So what do cultists have to do to ensure they take network? Because based on my count here, it looks like nomads are going to build three more structures. They have one open yellow in the north they take. They use their sandstorm, and then they dig the red between them and cultists in the north. So they probably build three more buildings this game, or more perhaps with shipping.
So cultists need to build at least two dwellings, but cultist literally has two dwellings. Cultist has
Yes.
two spades coming in from the cults.
Right.
One is clearly going to make his town. The other one probably goes on that black kind of down in the bottom middle.
Right.
I think giants are actually pretty likely to. I think giants are going to dig to make a neighbor next to Orin. So I think cultists will lose a brown hex, but
Mhm.
I think it's going to be okay. I think Halai is going to end with only three structures on his board, and I think it's going to be really hard for anybody else to equal that.
Right.
So uh,
And we see the cult spades coming in.
yep, Gino's carving out his town
Yep.
as expected. Halai is going to carve out his town, and then the other one is probably where I said it was going to go, but he has some flexibility here.
I think the one in the south you pointed out probably makes more sense than the yellow one in the very northeast of the board only because building on that yellow in the very northeast, the B6 hex provides an extra neighbor to
Oh,
Gino.
that's true. It does give a
So
neighbor
having
to
no,
Gino. The
yeah,
upshot is it's not going to get messed with. Nerdcube is saying unless he's crazy, he thinks Halai has smashed this game.
right.
I mean, that's what my analysis has been saying. So yeah, given that Nerdcube's analysis is the same, I think that's going to prove true.
Mhm.
Um, Ultimately, this has been a very nice cultist game, despite having a color neighbor with yellow. Yellow, completely ignored the east. Halai really got to mess with the east, and Halai still got just enough in the north to make it work out, even with that early disruption. So,
Yeah.
Nerdcube rushes the 11-point town here. Makes a lot of sense. Continue the greedy points game plan.
Yep. Um, which begs the question of what else is he doing this game? He has 8 resources left in a priest. That's enough for trading post and a dwelling,
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna see.
basically.
Yeah, he's gonna build a trading post to dwell in. He'll
Hmm.
put the priest to air, I guess, in order to,
Right.
and then he's gonna pass and get 8 points. But that's what I mean. Like Nerdcube looks like he's pretty on path to upper 110s, lower 120s, which given the tough game, given that the blocking happened to him,
Mm.
not a bad result. But there's no way that could be winning, right? So then looking at Hephaestus is only at 60. He has no pass tile. He has a couple water one back trading posts, and he has another town. He has second in network, but that takes him also to like 120-ish.
Right.
Uh,
Which is going to be
Orin,
behind giants here.
yeah, and Orin, like this town fight, the towns left all suck. Like the highest VP town left is 7 points.
Right.
So I'm not even totally sure that Orin sinking their resources into this town is going to turn particularly correct. But I guess same thing. What else were they supposed to do? But
Hmm. Yeah, and Gino still has to upgrade ship twice.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, he has tons of
he has the
resources.
resources to do that.
Yeah. But given how many resources Gino has wound up with, one really does have to look back at that decision to pass on Water One.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Did he really need those extra 3 coins?
Yeah, I'm not sure those 3 coins turned into enough points to make up for that. And so if he takes Water One, well, Halai still gets Water One. Halai probably still just wins. But yeah, it would have been an interesting shift if Hephaestus didn't get Water One. I think Hephaestus would be really out of this.
And then giants would have benefited from coins that round. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's Halai thinking right now? I would have assumed he would just build on H5, just on the off chance that's the brown hex in the south. That's he dug with his
Ah,
cult spade that's neighboring another brown hex. I assume once he builds there, giants probably just dig that brown hex.
I think
Um,
he's. I was gonna say, I think he's probably debating if it's even worth trying to fight for that, or if he just locks up his town space. There's the slight problem of what do you prioritize this round? Like, does he have a town he cares about? Does he need to rush one? I don't know. There's just little things like that. He's probably just being precise though, right? Like he does
yep,
ultimately settle on what you said, but this is a high impact situation. Like it's a big tournament game. He wants to win, and it always sucks when you throw it away by just being too fast and silly. So
right.
use your time. It's one of your resources. So
Yep, makes sense. So it's back over to Hephaestus. Presumably, he just continues building out his town in the north.
yeah, I forgot that he
Yeah.
had a cult spade as well. So the cult spade actually maybe changes
Oh,
the network math a little too. He might have more hexes than I thought.
yeah, I totally forgot about that as well.
Which might mean that he does get down to 3 structures. Maybe he
Yeah,
even gets down to. Is there a way he gets down to 2? Probably not.
3 trading posts and 4 dwellings?
Yeah, that's quite a
Seems to
bit.
that's a lot of stuff. 2
Yeah.
2 trading posts and 3 dwellings? Yeah,
Especially because he still needs one more shipping too. So
right, right.
Nerd Cube
Yeah.
does block the brown as we were all expecting.
Yep.
No surprises. I mean, I still feel like Halai's probably winning, but admittedly, Nerdcube's going to end this game directly at a lot of points. Nobody else is actually going to have that many direct victory points. I'm not sure any of these players are actually going to be topping 100 before we go into cults and network scoring.
Hmm.
Gino is fighting network more than I thought too. Um, Gino is also getting down to 3 structures. So the real question is, can Halai get down to only 2? He would need to build a trading post and 2 dwellings.
2
Oh,
dwellings,
that's
yeah.
that's super easy for Halai. He has so many priests and they're just workers, right? Like
Mhm.
there's no cult tracks that Halai needs to send priests to. So Halai could easily just hard dig out his last dwelling and get down to 2 structures. So he is still going to win that work.
Right.
There's a chance that Nomads ekes that out. Is there any chance Orin builds 2 trading posts, 2 dwellings? Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, he has the resources for the to do it, it's just a matter of the hexes. He has 1 green hex, so the question is I don't think he can afford another hard dig.
Um, probably not.
Like, I think he has just about enough stuff to build the trading posts and the dwellings, um, and then doesn't have enough for like, he doesn't have 3 extra workers for a hard dig. He has 1 spare green hex in the south.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that means Orin's left with 3 structures,
Yep.
and cultists are down to 2.
Yeah, cultists have a pretty easy path to get down to 2 structures. Again, he's just going to build this dwelling. He builds a trading post. He hard digs, builds another dwelling. I'm not even
Mhm,
sure what Halai does after that. Halai is going to be out of things to do. I mean,
mhm.
Halai could, I guess, maybe he has enough to just temple for Air 1 and build another trading post. That's a pretty good sequence. Otherwise, maybe he just advances dig once for 6 points. But
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty surprised. Like, just looking at Halai's board, Halai had just a much like I never felt like Halai had that many resources or anything, but gosh, Halai has built a lot of stuff. Like he's built
Yeah.
most of his buildings this game. Air 2 has definitely given him some good economy, and the cult economy has been pretty good for him as well. But I don't know where I missed when in this game where Halai was like just doing. I guess this whole game I've been saying I thought Halai's position was pretty well, but I don't know if I realized just like how well it's been going.
Yeah, I know, I totally agree. It was like there was never a point this game where we took notice of Hali's resources and realized he had like a ton of stuff. We've definitely seen that with Gino this game, remarking on just how many resources he's had at different points. But
Yeah,
yeah, well,
I guess Cultist did have a lot of resources though, because somehow Cultist did manage to, off of all that early leech in that center, he did
mhm,
end round 1 with like a sanctuary and 3 or 4 dwellings, and both of us even missed when he advanced ship twice. So
right.
that's a bit of where his game went so well that we weren't paying attention closely, because all of a sudden, yeah, he was in round 3, and like we're like, oh wait a second, what? This guy already has ship 3, like, or ship
Yeah.
2, like. Or maybe that was round 4. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, regardless, I he must have had a lot of resources somewhere in that stretch. But
Yeah, and then yeah, I can't remember exactly when that was. Of course, there was an injection of coins at the end of round 3, um, which either helped pay for that or backfill the coin cost. I can't exactly remember how all that played out.
yeah,
Um,
so just looping back into some of the other like bigger decisions this game, it does look like it kind of looks like I think Nerdcube was justified to rush Earth 1. I think there just isn't that many pass tile points in this game, and as we said, the track also doesn't offer that many points. Like digging and dwellings are kind of the same event, and then trading posts are the same event, and then you only have a couple pass tiles. It's hard to score, and Nerdcube at least figured out scoring pretty well. I mean, again, he got blocked from a lot of the rest of the stuff he wanted to do, but I'm not sure Nomads have benefited from this plan of skipping Earth 1.
No, I don't think so.
He's only at 59 points. Like he's getting some towns, but they're not even that great of towns either, right? Like that's part of the problem. He's taken a ship town and a 8 VP town, and then the last town's going to be pretty low scoring too.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I don't know, a worker town or possibly a ship town. I'm not entirely sure. I guess he needs to build. I guess he's building a trading post and a dwelling to form his last town.
Yeah, and then
Um,
I already kind of remarked on it. You did too, but yeah, Gino choosing to take coins. It looks like this game was just not one of those that really rewarded enough economy, and you needed to
yeah,
find ways to score points. And Water One, I think was important. Gino just built his third town, and he's at 71. I mean,
wow.
Gino
Yeah,
does have a lot of cults, so
he does. And did we land on speculating where Gino's gonna end up on this network race? So Cultist was down to 2 structures, Gino's down to 3 structures, probably. Yeah, it's definitely down to 3 structures. And Nomads.
so it
Uh,
looks. I was gonna say
is
it looks
probably
like
Nomads.
Gino. It looks like Gino's hoping to somehow like I don't know. I'm not sure about the worker town from Gino because is Gino just advancing ship twice and building one dwelling? I guess that is what he's doing, and so then he just took the workers. Okay, maybe it's fine.
He just took it because it was the highest VP town available.
Yeah,
I
so
guess.
so
Yeah.
I think Gino is gonna have 3 structures left on this board. Cultister is definitely gonna get down to 2, and then Nomads is the only one that I'm still a little uncertain about.
Right.
I don't think Hephaestus has enough to advance ship, build 2 trading posts, and 3 dwellings to tie cultists. So I think it's going to be Nomads and Orin tie for second and third, and
Right.
cultists just win network is I think what we're going to be at. But
Right. So that means a tie at second is 9 network points coming in each for would be for Nomads and Orin, and then 18 going to Cultists.
wow, Halai
Um,
does take a coin town. So this suggests to me that Halai is going for Air 1 and another trading post. Um, I think that's correct though. I think I like
Mhm.
given that all the towns kind of suck, you may as well take a like I taking a coin town is much more defensible late when the only other choice is to take a 7 pointer.
Right.
Like now it's only a 2 victory point difference for all those resources. And so yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he'll get 4 points for the air one plus an additional 6 on the trading post. So um, yeah, that's another 10 points.
Yeah, so that 10 points takes him to 97. He's passing for 9 is 106. He builds a dwelling is
Yeah.
108. So I mean he will be at 108 after passing, and then he has probably second place in all the cults is 16. So
Hmm.
124, and then wins network
That's
142.
1 point. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else is touching 140s this game, so sorry for the math, Bizzle, but I did it fast, real fast. It was so painless, like you probably didn't even notice it. I just slid it in there. Uh, but yeah, yeah. I mean, this is a really cool cultist game, right? Like even with kind of this is where like sometimes being aggressive just doesn't really work that much. Like, oh no, Halai didn't get the center sanctuary town he hoped, but he just got so much early leech, and he
Mhm.
still just found a way to connect and hit 3 towns. Like really creative and clever stuff though too. Like I honestly wasn't paying attention to that northern connection route slash town. Um, that was really clever.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to know if that was just a last minute decision of Halai to loop around through the north, because surely when he was building on B5, I would expect that he was thinking it would be a pretty tall order to actually sneak past nomads in any successful way. So I wonder if
I
that was one of those decisions where he just saw Nomads was probably passing before him, and he had the power. And like I guess what I'm curious to know, and I guess we can ask him if he does end up winning this game. We can ask him in the post game. Is like, how much notice did he have that this is what he was going to be doing?
Yeah, so I suspect it's a bit of both, right? It's he noticed an opportunity, but he also had the loose plan for it. So like he was
Right.
waiting for the right opportunity. He was planning for the opportunity. If Nomads passed at a certain, like, he was making sure he had enough power, making sure he had the resources to pull off the double dig and single dig. And if he didn't get offered that line, then he would have done something else. And that is how the great players play. You got to leave yourself flexible to various paths. Look at opportunities and leave yourself a chance to execute those opportunities if they rise up. And I mean, that is part of why Halai's winning here, though. He noticed it and he executed on it, and it was a great move.
Mm.
The congrats are already going out, so
Yeah.
these players agree. And Gino is agreeing with what you and I are saying. He's thinking that he maybe was supposed to take Water 1 instead of the coins. Um, and Gino is saying he really had problems to score at the end that he didn't expect, which is true. I agree. Gino has really struggled to make points, and I think he probably should have taken Water 1, it turns out. But
Yep.
it's a very hard decision to make in real time. So
Um, so Gino just has enough resources left to upgrade ship third time before he
yep.
passes. Um, and then I guess he'll use his stronghold action as well to move up water, um, to tie cultists there. I haven't really been counting Halai's resources too well to know what else he needs those priests for, but presumably he has at least one priest left that he can get second on water, I would
He
expect.
he needs to build a trading post, and then he needs to dig. I thought he was going to hard dig, but he also just has this power sitting around where he could just single dig. So I don't know.
Right.
Um, because everybody keeps declining him, which makes sense. But so he keeps getting these extra little powers every time.
Mhm.
Nerdcube maybe takes this free one for all I know. I don't like. He should decline, I guess, and he does. Or no, Nerdcube does accept. Never mind. He says, "Go ahead, Halai, win by a little more." Uh, so um, yeah,
Yeah.
I am curious how this is going to resolve between Orin, Nomads, and Giants. Orin have second tying for second on network and is winning a lot of cults. So I think Orin might be taking second overall, but he is 29 points behind Nerdcube, so it's a lot.
So do you still see Giants here in last place?
No, I think Giants might be second. That's the
Oh, I
interesting
see.
thing
I
is
see.
do
Okay.
do Hephaestus or Orin catch up? They're
Right.
like 20 some points behind. Like, I get that they have second on network, and at least Orin has lots of cults. I don't think there's any way Hephaestus catches up. Like,
Right.
Hephaestus doesn't have enough network or cults to. I think Hephaestus is last here,
Mhm.
which I think it loops a lot back to that really aggressive start of hard digging and killing your economy, kind of, and not going for Earth One. It Stronghold Nomads is a really tough game to win with. Opening, you really need pass tiles to score points off of, in my opinion. I think you also need a track that's a little more friendly to making points as well. And neither
Sure.
of those features were here, and I think that led to a pretty tough Nomads game.
Yeah. Um, what else does Hephaestus have left to do? I guess he uses his spade action to. Uh,
Oh wow, is Hephaestus not
Hephaestus
building
not
another
connecting?
dwelling? Oh, yeah, wait a second. Weird. Hephaestus.
He's
Oh,
not
wow. Yeah,
connecting.
he's not getting to second ship. I mean, he has
What?
enough to beat giants, so I guess he decided he just didn't want to
Oh,
tie. He never built another dwelling either. He just decided he didn't want to tie Orin, so he just accepted third place on network.
I
Gene,
sort of missed that. Does that make sense? I guess he could have had a chance to fight for second network, so he would have got 9 points as opposed to 6. I didn't
yeah,
really see what he did with the rest of his resources. He now has a couple of priests left over. I
he
mean,
he
yeah,
he chose to just build another trading post, right? He could have skipped
right,
a trading post and built another dwelling and probably also done the ship advance. Uh,
right.
Maybe not though. I don't. Although he took a worker town, right? Like, I don't know. I agree. I was watching that closely. I'm not sure that's the right decisions, but it's not that wrong. But it's definitely nice to Gino. Gino's getting a couple extra points because he's just getting sole second place in network,
Yeah, well.
which still isn't enough for Gino to win, but it might be enough for Gino to catch Nerdcube.
And so what does Hephaestus do with his remaining priests? Does he just toss them to Earth here so he can at least tie or get second on Earth, I guess?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what's going to happen. I don't. I Hephaestus doesn't have much to do, so the only way to turn those priests into points is just send him to Earth. Um, Halai is thinking a lot here about
Hmm.
exactly how to score this endgame. I would assume his big decision is how to build this dwelling. Did he want to hard dig it, or did he want to use the power spade? And he went with the power spade. So
Means he has 4 priests left over, and he's not getting another dwelling out. Well, I
well,
guess
he
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 could.
could
He could.
he,
What am I
he
talking about?
he could go to 16 network. I don't think that makes a lot of sense because you're turning in 6 resources for 2 points, which is just the same as scoring them. So like, why do it? But I guess just to be fancy, right? You could win the game with 16 network, go for it. But I think he's just going to send his priest to Earth to tie nomads. But
Right.
I don't know. He
I
could
don't
just
know.
build the other dwelling. I don't think it really matters. I think he's winning either way. But
Right. The points difference must be minimal because Hephaestus has nothing to do with either of his priests, so they can just both chase each other up to the 9 spot.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
So like, it's like, does Halai want to turn 2 priests in for 1 point, or does he want to turn all of his stuff in for 2 points via dwelling, or does he just want to score it all just as resource points? He chooses to go for the extra dwelling line, which is fun. So
yeah.
yeah, he hit 16 network, which is just good fun.
Mhm.
And yeah, the only thing left to do, I think, is Hephaestus sends 2 priests to Earth.
And people are joking in the chat, Gino accepted, Cultist's power leech in that final dig, so,
I don't think it matters.
no, I don't think so.
Hephaestus seemed a little annoyed about it because he said seriously, but I agree. Like, why not take the free power here? Sure. I mean, Cultist gets another cult step, but what else is Hephaestus doing with these priests? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
they don't.
don't see how he can score points with them. So
No, he doesn't have enough for them to convert to a resource point or anything like that. He literally just sends them both, and he can't tie anyone else.
yeah, and
So
Halai is actually ahead of Giants at the end of this, remarkably. So there's no way there's no way that Halai isn't just winning this game. I think Halai has the most post game points anyhow. Maybe Orin still do, actually. I guess Orin have better cults, but Orin are 30 points behind. So
wow, this has been quite the game to watch and try to keep up with everything that's going on. It's been a quite a number of pretty crazy plays early on in the game, and yeah, staying on top of all this stuff
I,
throughout has been a bit
it
of a
was
challenge.
it was super interesting watching the players decide, hey, I want Earth One, hey, I don't.
Yeah,
I do think part of why cultists have such a good game is because they got to open an economy favor into Earth One. That's almost always a really strong option when you're able to. It's just you don't usually get the option. And this game is like, what if cultist doesn't get Earth One? Does that, like, what if they do open Air Two and they get blocked from Earth One? How much would
right.
that have cost him? I don't know. But yeah, big congrats to Halai. I mean, a 142 here is big. Wow, and it does look like Nerdcube ekes out the second though.
Incredible.
Yeah, really cool for him. Like, as much as he got blocked, I think we do have to give him some real credit for his game plan. Um,
100%.
I think his game plan of opening Temple Stronghold, like, is pretty good. If he just got some better breaks, I think he would be competitive here. But instead, Cultist really got the breaks. Cultist getting to connect and outright win network and getting that third town is probably where the game just broke wide open for him.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I feel like if it was almost any other player other than NerdCube, they'd have a hard time with that setup and that series of events that unfolded to eco to second. So of course, I mean, there's a huge point margin between NerdCube and first place here. But yeah, it's still hats off to him for making that work as well as he did.
So just the usual couple post game things as I'm looking like Halai took two he took the 2 workers action twice, the 7 coins action twice, the single spade twice, the double spade twice.
Wow.
That's a lot of power actions. Like, I get that he took air too, but he also must have collected a lot. Holy smokes, Halai took 60 power in via leech. That is nuts. For comparison, everybody, 30 leech is like a really good game. The other players this game have 32, 32, and 19. Halai took in 60.
And just to add to that, he lost 34 victory points to leech.
34 points to leech.
34 points. I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
God, not outside of Yetis have I ever seen that number. Like, and Yetis are an expansion faction, so they're like 34 points to leech.
That's
like
unbelievable.
Alchemists sometimes spend less points on converting to coins. Like, my God. No wonder he was able to build all that stuff. He took on 34 points of debt. Wow. He did score 163 points this game. And then he only started at 13 and he paid 34 to leech. Wow. I can't get over that.
Unbelievable. I just find that I kind of actually missed that. Like, did you pick up on that? Like, I felt like it was a decent leech game for Halai, but I don't know where I missed that throughout that game that he managed to get 60 power through leech for 34 VP. I'm just kind of surprised I didn't pick up on that.
That center sanctuary paid him so much early. I knew that. And then we definitely pointed out that he was accepting some 5-for-4s occasionally here and there. Like the East, the Orange just built all next to him, and that gave him a ton of power. And then Nomads fed him a lot of power up in that northern town he later made too. But that still is a lot.
That's so incredible.
It was so much power. Yeah. Halai also managed to get 39 points off the rounds. So despite me claiming that the rounds were slightly tough to score on because they were a little doubled up, he still smashed that too.
And favorite tiles, 46 points. That's pretty enormous.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was a huge water 1, right? Like he wound up making that like an 18-point water 1 as well because he kept building temples to free up more trading posts.
Yeah, incredible. So total VP awarded here was actually 163 victory points for cultists.
Yeah, I am really curious if this bidding was just very wrong or if his game was so good. Like, that was nuts.
It's pretty interesting because a couple things happened. So we've talked about this leech incessantly, which is like, he's getting a ton of leech, but he also took two very high econ towns. So, which in a sense is kind of a perfect marriage with sort of hoarding points favors, right? Because he had Earth 1, Water 1, and Air 1, but then still effectively Planet managed to play like a high econ kind of game, just extracting additional economy that often other times people wouldn't from taking 2 coin towns and 60 power through 34 leech.
Yeah, and on that front, he also took Fire 2, which is basically a VP favor. But anyhow, I think we've talked enough about his crazy game. Let's talk to the man himself. I think we have Halai on. Big congrats on that win.
Thanks. I'm quite happy. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a super tough table. And getting a win like that's cool. So how happy were you to get cultists at the price you did? And
I think I was quite happy because I'm just comfortable with the cultists. I felt it was a bit too expensive, but in general, I tend to overbid factions rather than taking some factions I think that are ready to be taken, but can be in a tough spot. So I would have never taken Nomads. So I think I was happy just because that's the kind of matchup I like. I even like having that Sanctuary in the center without forming a town just because of the leech. So I was ready for that and it happened, so it was okay. I didn't expect Nomads to take the black thing, but it was all right. I just thought I might lose it to Giants or whatever. So
Right.
I was happy just because I could play the kind of game I like to play.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I guess one question I have for you, I was noticing when you initially dug B5 in the north, that's the black hex that ultimately allowed you to connect back to the center. Ryan and I are both looking at that, and it made perfect sense that it seems like your plan was just to sort of loop back around to the east and found a second town. But then, of course, later on, after Nomads passed, you were able to actually take a power action and dig the red away from them and continue moving around the map. I guess a question I have is like when you initially built on B5 there, like were you sort of considering this idea of getting a third town up there, or was that something that just sort of happened the last minute where you thought like, oh my goodness, I have a chance to do this and just sort of snapped it up?
I was planning on the 2 east towns, and I was
Mhm.
trying to keep the tension as long as possible to make Hefa decide at some point, does he let me connect or not? So I didn't use my spade, and I didn't use my power to keep the power for the double spade, but I wasn't counting on it. But once it opened up, I just had to check whether I have enough coins to continue the game, and I thought I'd just risk it, and it was worth it, I think, in the end.
Yeah,
But I
wow.
mean, I couldn't plan on it, of course. Hefa could just dig away any connection hacks and it's over, but it's not a big deal. I think I can just stay east only and compete for connection for network anyway. For network, yeah. I won't connect, but that's just a lonely sanctuary. It's okay.
Right. What do you think this game was like? Sort of your sort of biggest break this game, or the thing that was sort of the most defining, the most defining moment of this game for you?
I felt very happy when I got the coins in round 2. What was it, 2 or 3? When I
Right.
forced Nerdcube to build on his hacks, and Hefa didn't have the power to get the coins, so I could snap the coins and do another ship upgrade to ship 3. I think it was round 3, right?
Yeah, that was round 3.
Yeah.
That's when I felt quite comfortable, because if Nerdcube doesn't take that hex, it takes the coins, I kind of have to take the red one, but then I heard him and me, and I'm not that comfortable. So at that point, it started rolling because I had the coins twice, and I had ship 2-3. I was just flexible, and I could pressure water 1 since Gino or Hefa wouldn't get it. So I was just one step ahead at that point, and that was nice because if I don't get the coins there, I'm just one step behind, and everything works differently.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was a
Yeah.
big tempo shift for you. Um, One of the other things I was really intrigued by is that you still just opened Air 2 this game, and you didn't build on your initial digs. You were trying to have like a really long round 1. What was some of the ideas behind that?
I think I wanted Earth 1 in this game, and it was just to figure out what others were going to do. So I wanted to see whether Nerdcube opens Stronghold or Temple, and I wanted to see whether Hefa goes for a Temple, which he didn't then. So I just wanted to keep the options. If both of them take
Right.
Earth 1, I take Earth 1 and just build 2 dwellings, but I was hoping to play the Air 2 strategy.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting because I agree. My read on this game was that it was going to be hard to score points, and that appears to be the case. Most of your opponents, I think, ran out of ways to score points. So you locking up Earth 1, Water 1 did feel important. So I was a little surprised when the table wasn't really caring about Earth 1, and you were able to safely go for the Air 2 into Earth 1 line. But yeah, really, really savvy that you picked up on that and you made it work.
Yeah, it worked out well. I I generally think, because people keep saying that when there is a double trading post round in 5 and 6, that's a low scoring game. But I think that's not as bad as Sanctuary or Temple rounds 5 and 6, because you can
Mm.
still, usually you're not able to build 4 trading posts in a round. So in 2 rounds, you're able to do 5 or 6 in
Right.
total, and that's still okay-ish. So I I don't have a huge problem playing only Water 1 in those settings, I think. But maybe I'm wrong. That's just my feeling.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. One other thing I just wanted to loop back to quickly was just into Ryan and I were talking about this just before you came on the line, but was the incredible amount of power leech that you gained throughout this game. And we were looking just at the breakdown of the stats just at the end, and it was something like 60
Don't
power.
tell him. Don't tell him. Do you know how
Okay.
much leech you took?
I don't, but round 5 was big, so I think it's something maybe around 40, 30, 30. I don't
You
know.
paid 34 points for 60 leech this game. Yeah, like, oh, it's crazy.
I mean, in round 5, it was not only to get the resources, it was only to be also to be able to stall out Geno for the pass ship bonus tile.
Right.
And so it was just worth it to have more time, to gain time to do moves.
I see. So one of those expensive leeches is what gave you the power to buy a priest action or something like that to delay the round even further. I can't quite recall.
Yeah, I was then able to take the workers and still have enough power for coins to continue building trading posts. So
Right.
I needed everything in the end.
Yeah. Awesome. So, yeah, again, big congrats. Looking ahead, then you're into the Ice Division Finals, and you're up. Your Bowser Hugs, Deep Finesse, and Bizzle await you. What's any words for any of those players? Anybody you're particularly scared of?
I think Bizzle has to be careful building early trading posts because this time I might dig away his hex. Besides that, I am kind of scared of Deep Finesse. He plays very solid and very nice and sneaky, and I think, I don't know, we haven't played that much, but it feels like there is some, it feels like he knows what he does. I don't know why, but that's just my feeling. So I have big respect for them, but I mean, it's just I'm happy to play that game, and I'm not scared of them, but I think they're strong. They're all strong.
Mhm. Yeah, well, we're all really excited about that game for sure. It's going to be another incredibly stacked table with really high-level opponents. So we're all really looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, it's next week, right?
Yes, it is next week.
Yeah,
Next week, let's all tune in and watch how Halai faces off against everybody else. This was a heck of a game, and hopefully they'll continue to be that way. Any closing thoughts, Halai or Aaron?
I'm no, thanks. I'm looking forward to play it against Chris again. So yeah, that's nice.
That's great. I mentioned this before the game, Halai. It's always a pleasure to watch you play. I find you're such a very adventurous player that often is taking different lines that I would normally expect, and oftentimes it pays off. I know we've played together a few times, and it's always a pleasure to play with you or to watch. So I'm really going to be excited to see the next game coming up for the finals.
Thanks. Yep. Nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Indeed. It was a great pleasure watching the game today, and it was a real pleasure casting with you, Aaron. And thanks everybody for watching and tuning in today, and we'll catch you all for Ice Division Finals in a week.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.